Let's just start now. Yeah. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another stream. My name, of course, is on my Hexblade, your head guildmaster and chief barista. Happy Friday. Yay. Yay. I wish I had like an audience sound effect to have to cheer with, honestly. Congratulations on getting through another week. Your reward is watching videos with me and learning. I hope. Maybe. Learning adjacent is what I always call the show because that's the best I got, honestly. I don't know why I started calling myself some kind of like edutainment VTuber, but I haven't seen that description fail me yet, so you know. All right. So what we got today? We got, while I was looking through the set of stuff I have for y'all today and the stuff that people have submitted on the Discord, the main thing I kind of realized is that all of these items are just generally bad ideas to begin with, and they all fail in a very spectacular manner. Well, they all fail in their various ways, and in addition, we also got the weird normal stuff too, but like a lot of it's like stuff that's a bad idea and probably people shouldn't do, and I guess it's just a cautionary tale as to why this might be a bad idea, which is honestly sometimes the most entertaining shit. I'll be real. So yeah, and of course, you know, the usual. Sorry for being late. I like took a nap at the end of my guild house shift at 6, or 7-ish, and then I woke up and it was like almost 8 o'clock, and I'm like, oh shit, how'd this happen? It has been a tough week, unfortunately, but hey, it's over and it's always getting better, so I don't need to freak out about that anymore. So all good in the hood. Let's see here. Let's no further ado, let's get started with a couple of these. So the first one I think I posted. No. Actually, let's just get over to the first one. The first one, yeah. Okay, the first one's going to be from Sister Rose. Thank you, Sister Rose. And it's about funny crypto failure. The MS Satoshi. The floating crypto bro catastrophe. It's also from Adam Something. I love Adam Something's channel. It's always such a weird thing that goes on with these. So let's see. Let me just double check that we got audio over here and we'll be good to go. If I press the right button. Of course we didn't hit the right button. All right. I think we should be good. So let's get started. Great frame one right there. Just
anarcho-capitalism, one of the ideologies of our time. Its proponents, children aged 12 to 65, advocate for a world with no government and unbridled free market capitalism. ANCAPs believe that taxation is theft and that the only law humans need to coexist on is the non-aggression principle. This is an ideology with some very serious thought behind it. But how did we get from government bad to the world's first crypto cruise ship and its consequent failure? Let's find out. On the 7th of December 2010, a libertarian speaking event took place, hosted by the Thiel Foundation, named after its founder, Peter Thiel, a major Republican donor who's so far-right, even Republicans are worried he'll take the party down a completely insane path. At that fateful speaking event, Petri Friedman, grandson of libertarian alleged thinker Milton Friedman, gave a speech on seasteading or homesteading at the high seas. The idea boils down to this. We want a libertarian utopia, but governments have claimed all the land already, so let's build a country at the sea instead, where we can start with a clean slate without government rules and interference. Floating cities with millions of people.
Can you lower your mic volume just a tiny bit or raise the stream? Okay, now I got you.
Different ways of living together goes their vision. Among the event's viewers was Chad Elbartovsky, a former defense contractor and anarcho-capitalist crypto bro who was deeply moved by the sheer intelligence of the seasteading idea. He decided to make it a reality. He's one of the founders of Ocean Builders, if you remember, together with Grant Romund, another libertarian crypto bro. They were both featured in my previous video about sea-pods. That rough prototype you see on their website was their first attempt at seasteading, where Grant and Chad joined forces with German Bitcoin millionaire Rüdiger Koch, who funded the construction. It was to be a tiny but groundbreaking instance of a small, libertarian utopia free of government rules and taxation.
Video to a dumb crypto
big
idea.
middle finger to all those out there who want to control other people's lives through force. He said this standing on an illegally erected structure on the shores of Thailand, a military dictatorship with a specific law on the books on, quote, endangering national sovereignty, end of quote, punishable by life in prison or execution. Naturally, the Thai government wasn't too happy about that big middle finger to them standing tall and proud within their territorial waters. With the Thai Navy rushing in, Elbartovsky had to flee the country in the dead of night with his girlfriend, a Thai influencer.
They said they built their prototype home in pursuit of freedom. But now they had gone into hiding before the Royal Thai Navy raided their home last weekend. The Navy said the structure was built within 12 nautical miles.
Why do people keep talking about like building stuff in quote unquote international waters, and then when they do that, it's still in the sea, it's still in like the sea range of a country? Oh wait, I know why. It's because international waters is like deep as hell, and you can't build jack shit on there. The closest thing that we can build that we're able to hit the bottom with is, oh no, within everybody's territory. All of them. Irregardless. Because that's how the ocean works. Huh. Who would have thought?
From shore, and for that, the couple could face charges of threatening the country's sovereignty.
The Thai Navy seized and impounded the prototype, a shocking act of government aggression against innocent libertarians who merely tried seizing the land of a military dictatorship while also publicly taunting their government.
I wonder
With
what they
Thai Marines' jackboots trampling down on the first prototype, the seasteading dream seemed all but dead.
I wonder
But our
what
crack
they're
team
using
of
with it now.
libertarians, now calling themselves seasteaders, weren't about to give up just yet. By then, the COVID pandemic had just hit, and there was opportunity to be had. Grant, Chad, and Rüdiger decided that instead of giving up, it was time to level up. Using Rüdiger's Bitcoin profits, they bought an ocean liner on the then collapsed market for 1/10 of its regular price. They Christianed it the
I'm gonna be totally real. Imagine having this much money and actually caring about how you live your life for the rest of your times. You bought a motherfucking actual cruise ship. Like actually. And you're like, I'm concerned about the future.
the MS Satoshi in honor of Bitcoin's mysterious inventor. Their new plan was as follows: turn the ship into a floating city.
Hold on, what does it say? I'm
Honor
behind
of
there.
Bitcoin's mysterious inventor. Their
It's clearly like relabeled something else, and I kind of want to know what it is. Hold on. I bet there's a Wikipedia article on this. MS Satoshi. Is there a wiki? Is it this you? Yeah! It's the MS Satoshi. It got bought by an actual crew. Whoa, hold the fuck up. Yeah, this is the guy. It lasted for 2 years. Oh my god. That looks at least better. They gave it paint. It's so rusty. They couldn't even fucking paint it. You bought it, motherfucker. How big is this damn boat? Cost $276 million US. Okay, and they said it was about 1/10 of its cost. So like that's still $20-ish million when they bought it. A 1,400 capacity cruise ship. And they bought it with Bitcoin because they thought it was a great idea. Why? I didn't even know you could just buy stuff like this on a whim and massively fuck up. Like, what? I have to think hard about buying a used car, and these guys are buying an actual cruise ship.
Their new plan was as follows: turn the ship into a floating city/crypto hub and fill it with libertarians and crypto bros looking for a fresh start. Then sail the ship around the world on international waters free of government interference, thereby achieving the anarcho-capitalist seasteading dream. And
not even
oh
how
boy,
this
did that
works.
plan ever go well. They hired a crew wanting to sail the ship from Cyprus to Panama, which I assume was the only country sympathetic enough to the idea of having a bunch of crypto bros parked perpetually near their shores on a fucking ocean liner. Elvartovsky posted proudly about their venture on Reddit, where, however, people were a bit less enthusiastic about the idea.
Why is it always Reddit? Why is it always Reddit? Reddit user Elwar goes, I'm buying a cruise ship. Ask me anything. Jesus.
Questions arose such as, where do you get the power? Water? Food? Toilet paper? Internet? If the ship is on the shores of Panama and subject to the laws of Panama, why not just live on the shore in Panama? Oh, and the most important question of all, will there be a crypto casino on board? To which the answer was yes, obviously. And Chad did his absolute best trying to answer all the nitpicky questions. According to him, there would be generators providing power, and the ship would be supplied and maintained by an offshore specialized company. Hang on, I thought this was a self-sustaining libertarian
Reliance.
utopia. Also, they envisioned residents operating Bitcoin mining rigs in their cabins. Microwaves aren't allowed, however, due to safety reasons. Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
But before the project could even start, our seasteading heroes began encountering problems. Turns out, operating a cruise ship full of crypto bros is not so simple. Who would have thought? And the idea that international waters
Also,
are
aren't
this lawless,
Bitcoin mining
chaotic
rigs
Wild
kinda
West
time
is more
sensitive
akin
and would
to how
need good
children
internet?
envision the world.
Am I
And
lying?
also
I
Patrick
don't know.
Friedman, apparently, grandson of one of the foundational thinkers of modern libertarianism. Can you imagine spending
Thanks,
your
man.
days on the Satoshi at the open sea, surrounded by a bunch of sweaty weirdos? You'd be craving the land after a day. And so our libertarian heroes, standing in a Greek port, were anxiously waiting for the arrival of the new cruise ship from Cyprus to be sailed further to Panama to make the seasteading dream come true. And that's when it began to dawn on them that the world might not be as simple as they envisioned. Turns out, international
Oh, no.
waters are not in fact a lawless Wild West, but governed by a plethora of laws and regulations.
Yeah, there it is.
Which is something they could have found out with a 1-minute Google search. Firstly, ships need to be registered in a country having to fly that country's flag. Consequently, on board the ship, that country's laws will apply. Whew, so much for living free of government. You could just
Fun fact, that also applies to planes.
not register your ship, but if you do that, a couple of interesting things will happen to you. For example, common legal protections will cease to apply to you, effectively making you a legal target for piracy, as no nation is really obliged to come to your help should you get attacked. And your massive cruise ship loaded with crypto bros
Legal target for piracy. It's like Disney.
sporting expensive crypto mining gear and
Or
other
Adobe.
valuables is the mother of all targets for any pirate. Secondly, no port will let you in. A ship's registration is basically its passport, so if you need to resupply or seek shelter from a storm, good luck doing that in any civilized port. Thirdly, if you're sailing an unregistered vessel, apparently other nations' ships can just approach you, board you, and bring you under their jurisdiction. Long story short,
What?
our heroes ended up buckling to the evil government pressure
Pirates?
and registered their ship to
Pirates
Panama.
real?
But seriously, they could have found out all this in advance with like a minute of Googling. They hired a skeleton crew to take them through the ocean, a British captain, and a crew of 40 or so sailors. According to this article, the captain, Peter
I
Harris,
don't even think
considered
40 could
resigning after a
support this
week,
entire damn
accurately
thing.
sensing the catastrophe lying ahead. According to him, the ship's new owners, Grant, Chad, and Rudiger, knew nothing about shipping. And by that, I don't mean highly esoteric professional industry specifics. I mean basic fucking stuff, such as ships needing a certificate of seaworthiness, which they naturally did not get for the MS Satoshi. According to the article, usually a new buyer would ensure certificates lasted a couple of months to cover any onward journey, but no one on the ocean builder's side had checked. You bought a goddamn ocean liner without even consulting Wikipedia beforehand? After even a cursory Google search, you'll find the Merchant Shipping Act of 1995 makes it a criminal offense to send or attempt to send an unseaworthy ship to sea. Because of
I really don't understand how you can just buy this thing without, like, isn't buying a car, like, almost as complicated, if not more? Why is it, why did these idiots buy a boat? Or how could they have bought a boat with all these things? Like, the certificate of seaworthiness is basically like a car inspection, you know? Like, how? Because the only way this thing is going to be moving across the ocean is with a tow line back to the port. Like, there's no...
This, ocean builders were forced to take their ship into a dry dock to have expensive repairs performed to get their certificate.
See?
And believe it or not, this extreme negligence and complete obliviousness to rules permeated the entire journey. According to the captain, ocean builders financier Rüdiger Koch was naive about how shipping worked and had an abhorrence of rules. He didn't understand the industry. He just thought he could treat it like his own yacht. He bought an ocean liner and thought it was like having a yacht. Oh my god, these people are literal children. But ocean builders' trials were far from over. As the ship sailed across the Atlantic to Panama, El Bartosky was planning to convince the Panama authorities to let their ship anchor off their coast, registered as a floating residence instead of as a ship. That way they could sidestep all the red tape associated with ships. Sounds logical, but isn't this something you should have organized before setting sail to Panama? What? Hell, before buying a fucking ocean liner to use it as a floating crypto bro city? So you know you'll have an actual fucking place to put it? No? Okay. Panama, of course, did not find Chad's idea of a floating residence amusing and insisted on keeping the ship registered as an actual ship. But this also meant having to sail 12 miles off the coast every 20 days to let out wastewater, which they weren't allowed to do in Panamanian waters. But there was yet another problem.
Love ecological disasters.
Ships need to be insured, and according to the article, no one would agree to cover them. They wouldn't even tell us why we weren't insurable. They just kept saying no, Rowan said. It's kind of hard to remedy something if you don't know what the problem is. That sounds rough, though I think I know what the problem was. Allow me to speculate a bit and roleplay one of their phone calls with an insurance agent. Hi, hello, GM. So we'd like to insure our ocean liner in Panama. Right, so can you describe your planned operations? Yeah, it's like a floating city for crypto bros who want to live free from government tyranny such as taxes. We don't know anything about ships or the sea, but we'll figure it out, I guess. And what we do know is that every room will have a crypto mining rig, and we'll also have a casino. Hello, are you still there? Hello? After trying multiple insurers and brokers, Romund began to realize that the cruise ship industry was, as he put it, plagued by over-regulation. Okay. But isn't this something you could have researched before buying a fucking ocean liner? Also, over-regulation. Yeah, sure, dude. Hey, bro, I put together a car from scrap in my backyard, named it the Crypto Mobile, but police pulled me off the road. They said I needed some weird stuff like vehicle lights, speed gauge, insurance, driver's license. The roads are plagued by such an over-regulation, bro. Government's bad. And my god, there are also the costs of operating an ocean liner, which I imagine they also failed to consider. According to the article, just the fuel to keep the Satoshi going was costing them $12,000.
Also, wait, how are they not, like... Being this negligent should be a crime, right? Right? Like, isn't this would or should be at least a crime? I hope. Right?
Per day. Apparently, that's when Rüdiger floated the genius idea of replacing the ship's engine with a smaller one, which would merely entail putting the ship in a dry dock and cutting its hull open.
Why would it be? I mean, like,
it's begin to surface. But
it's an arrestable offense to drive a car without a registration.
It wasn't certain they could handle it, but that also meant months of upkeep, which they couldn't afford. To try and bridge this gap, they tried selling the cabins to crypto bros to live in. The problem is, such cruise ships really weren't designed for long-term habitation. Sure, you can spend a few weeks there on a cruise, but imagine trying to live most of your life in your tiny cabin on a ship. You would go insane after a month. And if you're really into crypto and can afford a cabin on the Satoshi, why would you? The author of the article actually reached out to someone who almost bought a cabin, a successful Bitcoin speculator in early retirement. He wasn't sure about the ginormous leap down in luxury, from living in deep residential comfort on land in the US Midwest to living in a very small cabin on board a 30-year-old cruise ship. And I mean, yeah, kind of. It's a good point. Maybe you could have thought about this before buying a fucking ocean. But even those who didn't mind the step down in luxury were slated to be strangled by regulations, drowning in them, if you will. For example, want to have a pet on board?
Drown in it.
Your pet shall not exceed 20 pounds, and should it disturb the peace more than 3 times per month or 5 times per year, it shall no longer be permitted on board. Pet-related conflicts shall be resolved according to Section 5/F of the Satoshi Purchase Agreement or Section 4F of the Satoshi Master Lease, where applicable. Dogs shall only be permitted in cabins with balconies, and owners are advised to buy a designated porch potty. Throwing animal waste overboard shall result in a fine of $200. Unsurprisingly, nobody was buying the cabins to be living perpetually on the MS Satoshi. But even if they did, how would ocean builders cover the
If your
ship's
animal
operating
makes
costs?
too much noise,
Just
we will
the
throw it
fuel is
overboard.
$12,000 per day. Even if they managed to get the daily cost of everything to, say, $2,000 per day, that's still $60,000 per month. As far as I know, the cabins were supposed to be one-time purchases. How would they cover the recurring costs in this anarcho-capitalist, no government, no taxation utopia? Oh, I know. What if the inhabitants would pitch in part of their monthly income into a common fund in order to keep the settlement running? We could call this model taxation. I have no idea how they would have financed all this, though something tells me they had no idea either. Their response to this must have been their usual one, namely, we're looking forward to people's innovative solutions to the problem. Oh, and apparently Rüdiger Koch wanted to open a hospital on the ship for medical entrepreneurs.
Whoa!
Words that should never be uttered together under any circumstances. Imagine getting injured, and as you regain consciousness in the ambulance, the paramedic tells you, don't worry, we're taking you to the crypto clinic where a medical entrepreneur will take a look at you. I
Medical
would rather take a
entrepreneur.
cyanide pill. As the MS Satoshi was sailing towards Panama, our heroes presumably sat down to take stock of the situation. They had an uninsurable ship which they couldn't use as a floating habitat, eating up vast amounts of money each day which they couldn't afford, as they tried selling cabins which nobody was buying, while at the same time drowning in paperwork with their money running out fast. It was Christmas time. According to the article, that's when Grant had all the water.
I also just realized this now. Wasn't this during the COVID pandemic stuff? Hold up, wait.
Or either the famous sandwich they ordered or what they
When did wasn't this during COVID? This was during COVID. Of course no one's buying it. What the fuck is wrong with them?
Slides turned on and started using them alone. They're just children. These people are just children. At that point, the seasteading dream was all but dead. They decided to sell the Satoshi. But oh, what's that? COVID pandemic, the entire cruise ship industry being dead? Right, so they couldn't even sell it. Therefore, they made the painful decision to instead scrap the Satoshi and with it their dream of anarcho-capitalist seasteading. They found a shipbreaking company in India that would buy up their ship. So they made the deal and... Hello? What's that? Basel Convention? Is that some kind of cryptocurrency? Oh. Well, I guess
no.
we'll have to innovate our way out of this one. Turns out, if you're disposing
Law?
of a ship, it qualifies as hazardous waste, which you are not allowed to bring from a country that signed the convention, Panama, to a country that did not, India. Our heroes were once again stuck with their cruise ship, until presumably by some accident, a cruise ship company run by actual adults heard of their situation and bought the Satoshi, renaming it Ambiance. At least those idiots could sell it for a little more than they bought it for, which should have helped them kind of break even. How can anyone be this
They made
fucking
a small
stupid? I'm genuinely baffled by these people. 99% of their problems could have been fully avoidable through a cursory 5-minute Google search. Instead, they just charged in zero plans, zero understanding, head empty, maritime law, insurance, certificates, whatever bro, we'll just innovate or something. Government's bad. I remember acting like this when I was an ADHD-ridden 8-year-old child, when I suddenly got the idea in my head that I would build a fortress. So I just began putting together some old wooden planks I could find. I had no plan or conceptualization of what I was doing. All I had was this vague vision of some wooden fort. Needless to say, all I had in the end was a couple of planks stuck in the mud. And these people did what I did, only as fucking adults. And not just with some old planks, but with an ocean liner. There is something about being a crypto/tech
It's such a
bro
terrible
that turns people
image
into
of the
children.
ocean
Or maybe
liner.
it's the other way around. Maybe it's the crypto tech stuff that draws in all the adults with the brains of children.
Sir, the Lambo's ready.
What?
I think about Cryptoland.
So this was the saga
Almost
of the
as much
MS
as the
Satoshi,
Roman
a
Empire.
tale of shocking incompetence, of confident negligence, and proud ignorance. By the way, they planned on arranging the shape and additional floating platforms around it in the shape of a Bitcoin logo.
Oh, I just saw boobs.
Thank you for
Okay.
watching. If you like my content, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a channel member here on YouTube. And I'll be
I
seeing you
hate
next
stupid
time.
people making dumb big decisions without any form of management behind it. Why does this keep happening? Like, if we just, like, if we go, look, it's Saudi Arabia, the hell are they doing over there? Giant lion in the desert? Surely this will not go wrong. God. Okay. Okay. Next video. Oh, this one's also from Rose. Is the experimental phones of the 2000s. So the funny thing about this is that, like, obviously I grew up in this era, so maybe I knew about, like, I have a feeling I probably know about every single phone that's going to be mentioned. And I'm so excited to see mold memories come back to me. Potentially. Let's see.
A metal rectangle, a camera on the back,
Woo!
a charger on the bottom, and a touchscreen on the front.
Metal rectangle.
This is what your phone looks like. I'm not even going to say probably or most likely because that's just not true. Your phone is some variation of these four things, and it has been for a long time, ever since a crisp Tuesday morning of 2007, when I was pouring a bowl of Cheerios and Steve Jobs was unveiling the very first of what would become the primary way in which the majority of the population interacts with the internet.
iPhone.
And ever since then, some form of this has been in our pockets ever since. And it gets the job done. I can call people, I can text people.
Also, I'm a nerd. I want to go back and then go through this section and name every single phone because I bet I can.
A camera
Watch
on
this.
the back, a charger on the bottom, and a touchscreen on the front. This is what
What was it? Nexus 5. Oh, I don't know this one. I think it's a Huawei phone.
your phone looks
That's at least something past an iPhone 11 because it doesn't have the right notch.
like. I'm not even
That's the original. That's the original Pixel phone.
gonna say
What was it? That's an iPhone 6.
probably.
That's a Samsung Galaxy S, I think 7. It has the curved display
Or
on it.
most
And then there's the iPhone XR, which I'm pretty sure I'm using right now. So
likely because that's
I did most of them.
just
Yay.
not true. Your phone
I used to be like such a huge phone nerd, like for real. I used to be such a nerdy ass nerd about smartphones. Back when they were all like developing and it was very exciting, and now it's all the same, and now I'm tired.
is some variation of these four things, and it has been for a long time, ever since a crisp Tuesday morning of 2007, when I was pouring a bowl of Cheerios and Steve Jobs was unveiling the very first of what would become the primary way in which the majority of the population interacts with the internet. And ever since then, some form of this has been in our pockets ever since. And it
rectangle.
gets the job done. I can call people, I can text people, I can play video games about a duck crossing the road. I'm very good at crossing road. I can tap on anything I could ever want. So what's the problem? I don't know. What's the problem with some of those Cheerios that I poured in 2007 that spilled on the floor and that I kicked under the fridge that have been sitting there ever since? Those Cheerios underneath there actually share something in common with phones today. They're both stale. Don't get me wrong. Touchscreen phones are really, really good, all things considered. Just like I said, they do the things they're supposed to do really, really well. But before we decided that this is how a smartphone was going to be, there was an era of experiments.
Yeah, the rapid technology stuff was great.
The 2000s
And then it
were
got
a time
annoying.
of technological blossom. Computers were going from looking like this to looking like this. People's hair was going from looking like this to looking like this. And phones were going from looking like gray business bricks to looking like... Well, how should phones look in this new millennium? Does anyone have any ideas? I do have an idea. It seems like every single phone manufacturer was trying to find an answer to that question. Experimenting and trialing with all kinds of different designs. Throwing all kinds of spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. And they come in a lot of different forms. The first of which I want to talk about is slidey phones.
Yeah, sliders!
This guy right here is the LG Breeze. This was my first cell phone I ever had, and he comes with a pretty special feature.
I love fun
He
slidey
slides.
boys.
Slidey outfits were the most popular phone thing of the 2000s. You may not be familiar with my friend the LG Breeze right here, but you've definitely seen a slidey phone of some kind. Sorry. It is an icon of the 2000s. Most worked not unlike my friend
Wasn't the
here,
Matrix
fitting
one
a
also,
keyboard
like, the phone
out
from the
the
Matrix
side
also
or a
slidey?
numpad down the bottom. Those were the two most popular types of slides, but very, very far from the only. This is the Motorola V70. A pretty normal looking guy on the surface.
No,
but
it's
with
not.
a
It's a
deep,
walkie-talkie. Yes.
flipping secret. That's right.
Yeah!
around the side. It pivots around its weird circle screen to go around the side. That is so cool. It is pretty much just a normal flip phone, just with a different direction, but still, that's so cool to me. Another phone from Motorola, the Motorola Flip Out, is
What?
a phone named quite accurately.
Oh,
because that's
wait,
just
this
what
one ran
you do when you
Android.
See it. Watch this.
When Android had its
What? That is
Ass.
so cool. I remember seeing this one back in the day. And
It had
being
its,
in
like,
equal
ass
awe
Android
as I am
UI
right
when
now.
Motorola
How
was-
does it do that? How
yeah,
does
it's
it do
sucked
that?
dick.
Megan's? You know what? When I recorded this, I
Megan's?
thought it flipped a lot differently than it actually does. It's actually probably just a single hinge right here. Anyways, this is the Siemens SK65. I know it's going to be hard to beat that last one, but watch. Whoosh. What? Is it comfortable to hold when it flips out like that? That is crazy. I love that. They didn't stop at just keyboards or numpads.
That's such a
Popping out those
bad
is
pivot.
cool, but what if you popped out the screen? This is the LG VX9400, and instead of popping out an isolated keyboard or numpad, instead the display pops up and rotates,
LG Wing. LG Wing.
turning into a horizontal display. to
The
play
previous
videos or
successor.
watch the news. I found this picture of the news on it. That is so nifty and snazzy. I'm saying all these weird words.
Also, you may realize that LG has terrible names for models for phones. They have not changed. They are all shit. The only reason why they might be good is because they got rebranded for the carrier that they were on.
It's because I looked through my
Otherwise,
script
it's
and
just
I saw
garbage. Like, it's the worst naming scheme. Even Sony had a better naming scheme, and they are known for having weird-ass ones.
that I said cool like probably 30 times. So I went on a thesaurus and I swapped some of them out. This phone is so modest and in vogue. It really is though. Like, this is so creative and just cool. Shit. I love things like this. They actually tried to recreate this phone in 2020 with the LG
Yeah!
Wing, which
Wing
sounds like it'd be
mention.
really cool in concept, but in practice,
Dumb as
it
shit!
doesn't really have the
Dumb.
same charm. That's a hammer. Another poppy screen you might be familiar with is the Danger Hip Top, which went by many different names. Most popular,
The Motorola Sidekick! Or the T-Mobile Sidekick, baby!
Look at that.
Yeah!
This is the phone that Zoe from Zoe 101 used.
The
That's where I saw it.
teens.
I watched Zoe 101. Her brother was named Dustin, and my real name is Justin, and it made me mad. Some
I love
phones
the Wing
didn't pop or slide
so
at all.
much.
This is the famous Nokia E70, which on the surface looks like a regular
See what I mean? They
Nokia
all
type
sound the
phone,
same.
but it unfolds like a book. What?
Oh.
Again, just such creative ways to do that. That is so cool. So far, I've mostly only talked about sliding and rotating, I guess, phones. But there was another type of motion, also very, very popular in the early 2000s. Flip phones.
fold.
I don't have a flip phone, so pretend this is a phone. My duck can be my flip phone. Watch this. Wang 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 wang
Hi, Duck.
wang wang. Hello. There were many flip phones too that flipped in ways you could not imagine. The Samsung P100V was a phone that you could pivot the
What the
hinge
fuck are
around,
you?
so you could use it as a phone like this, or type a text message like this.
Oh, that's
this
cool.
This is the Moto A1200, another flip phone, but not really. It does flip, but the flippy part is actually just a translucent piece of plastic that does have a speaker, so it does still function as a proper flip phone, but there's not a screen up there. That is the
Why
most
would they
unique flip phone
do
I've
that?
ever seen. Except maybe the Lamborghini phone. I miss these
cool
types of phones so much. Any device that allows you to swap or change or move things like a Transformer toy is so fun. I wish we could implement this somehow into modern phones. There's folding phones now. They're starting to become a thing, but the streamlined phone design right now is still just this. But speaking of shapes and silhouettes, let's talk about those.
shapes.
These phones from this era can take about any shape you could imagine. And there are some very, very unique ones. This bad boy is the Nokia 7600, a Tamagotchi-looking phone with buttons on the side and a screen in the middle, all in the form of this weird shape.
Oh god, I hate it.
Is that? What would you even call that? It's not a circle, it's not a square.
A juice
it's
box.
Lips! Lip phone! I actually really like the design of this one. It looks like it would feel so nice to hold in your hand. It looks so...
It would. Here's the problem. That rubber is gonna galvanize and it's gonna suck now. But also, like, how do you type with this? Like, I get it, but also, like, that ain't a grid. That ain't T9. Like, it's
smooth.
T9,
It
but
looks
it's gonna
like
be
you could
fucking
drop it
weird.
like soap, like whoop, whoops. I love it. On the other end of the shape spectrum, we have the Nokia 7280, a stick type phone that was inspired maybe by a
Lip
coffee
gloss.
crisp. It's got a screen on the left and a little control pad on the right, which you rotate around like an iPod. It's also got a camera inside of it that you can access by going bop, and it pops on open. That's so much fun. Like, who comes up with this? Like, oh, we have our weird stick coffee crisp phone. What else should we add? Should we put a
Weird-
camera on it?
weird
Yeah,
brick.
but should we just make it like kind of pop open like a Pez dispenser? Yes, that part was not inspired by the coffee crisp. The Toshiba G450 is another lawn one. It reminds me maybe of a car
Wait, hold up.
dashboard or maybe
Bring the picture back up.
keys. It's got these
Hold up. I Yeah, that's safe. Does anyone else see this, or am I thinking too hard? Like, you see it, right? Like, huh?
three circles. One is a display, the other one is a numpad, and the other is the rest of the numpad. It's split into two separate circles, which there's not anything
How do you
necessarily
type
wrong
the-
with, but it does go against almost anything or any kind of numpad anyone has ever seen. Usually all the numbers are in one place. Some companies just took existing things and just stuck a phone onto it. Look at the Nokia N95. That's just a camera with a phone stapled on. Look at this random unassuming makeup thing. Oh, that's nice. That's probably a mirror with some kind
Oh,
of
it's a
makeup
compact
thing
phone.
inside
Wait.
it. Probably. Psych! That's a phone.
Yeah.
That's the Siemens Zilibri 6. We've talked about flips and slides. We've talked about shapes.
Ah, I
want to
love
talk
the
about
Asian
another
market for
trend
phones. They're
that was
good.
present in the 2000s, and that is gimmicks. By gimmick, I don't mean that in a negative connotation. A gimmick isn't necessarily bad. In
Weird
fact,
shit,
most of these
weird
are
shit,
good. By
weird
that, I
shit.
just mean some kind of novelty or thing that you normally would not
Highly
see on a
weird
phone.
shit.
Like this. What is that? What is this? This is the Sony Xperia Pureness. Oh my god, I love this phone. The bottom half is a pretty
Sony.
normal Sony Ericsson phone. but
Always
the top
making the
half,
weird
the
shit.
display is a piece of glass that makes it look like your icons and your stuff is floating in air, suspended by nothing. It feels like magic. And this isn't just on
Imagine
camera, too. This
breaking
is
it.
actually how the phone was. It's completely translucent on the back, so you can see through right to whatever the person using it is doing. It has zero privacy, but who needs privacy when your phone looks like this? Oh, you caught me reading Sonic the Hedgehog X Rainbow Dash fanfic. Might I ask how you found out? Oh, what's that? You read it off of the back of my floating glass future phone? Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Oh.
As a
Oh,
side
dear
note, that must save so much money because they're like, let's just put the raw display down.
Me.
And call it a
privacy
gimmick.
Was not the only deficit on this phone. It also doesn't have GPS, an SD card slot, no app store, no camera, and the screen is completely black and white. And not to mention completely
No, it was
useless
expensive
on a
as
sunny
shit.
day. But
Oh,
fuck,
no.
man.
Well, I mean,
just can't-
but a Sony Xperia product, Ericsson products at the time were expensive as shit regardless, weren't they? Like, this didn't even make it to the U.S. market.
Can't help myself but look
I
past
hope
all
it
that
didn't.
because of how cool this is. This phone is actually a perfect demonstration of my point. I found this concept image by Tuajik of what an Xperia Pureness of today could look like with a more modern smartphone design. They could do this. It seems so out there.
No,
this crazy
they
all-glass,
couldn't.
fully translucent phone. But
No,
this
they
is very, very far from impossible.
No, they
but
couldn't.
don't,
No, they
because
couldn't.
it's
No, they
not that
couldn't.
period of experimentation of the 2000s anymore. Another
Also, Sony's out of the phone game. Or most of
perfect
the time.
example of a gimmick phone is the Xperia Play. Its gimmick was it was for gaming. It was the gaming phone. Nowadays we are blessed with so many gaming phones that we all love so much. Right? What, you guys don't have an Asus ROG Phone 6 with a thermoelectric cooler add-on? Oh, we have many gaming phones these days, but back then, these didn't really exist. This was one of its kind. It's a pretty regular 2012 phone, but it has a slide-out keyboard that isn't actually a keyboard at all. Instead, it is a rough
Gamepad.
PlayStation gamepad, which is a neat concept. I remember really wanting one of these things back in the day, because it's so cool, and also because this phone, for a time, was the only way you could play Minecraft on mobile. For 22 days. It had all kinds of games and stuff. I think a few were exclusive to it. They weren't, like it had...
They weren't. So the thing with the Xperia Play that I think there's missing context in, this was 2011 phones at the time were still basically every phone currently reached like a 1 gigahertz barrier in terms of their processing speed. And like I don't remember the RAM for this one. I think it was like 512 megabytes or something. Like they didn't even hit like a gig at this time, right? So Sony advertised this both with two things. One, this was advertised to be in the United States at least, a Verizon exclusive phone. One, two, the apps that were available were a majority, I believe. The ones that Sony brought that were compatible with this external control set was, I believe, PlayStation 1 games. So you couldn't even, and even then, I think they were even cut down PS1 games. So there's that, and there wasn't, for at least from what I remember, an external application to like
Battlefield
have these buttons be rebound to anything. So most of the time it was honestly just kind of dead weight, which is also why I don't think this phone really succeeded. Also, I tried it at like a demo scene, at like a demo space. I'm like, it was also at the same time with like where like the PSP Go was also being a thing, and this had shittier buttons. Like the control pad actually like sucked ass too. Don't forget.
Bad Company 2, that's pretty cool. And because of these games, I got the impression when I was little that it was a phone combined with a PSP Mini or something. Remember those? But that is not the case. It was a fairly regular Android phone. It was not a console combined with a phone. That would just be crazy.
Nah, it was, yeah.
Right?
It just
is
sucked.
The Nokia N-Gage.
Let's
A true
go!
first gaming phone. Half phone, half game.
It's
It
happening.
really was.
Taco
it was meant to be a
phone.
phone, but also a full-on game
That's just an
console
N-Gage.
to compete
It
with
had
the Game
Tomb
Boy
Raider.
Advance. The Game Boy did end up winning out, though, due to having 1,474 more games. But that's not to say that it didn't have games. This didn't run just like Snake or some mobile game. This ran full-on game cartridges, and it had some good...
Pause. You're giving it way too much credit. Okay, so these were straight the fuck up SD cards with the games on them. Now, here's the thing that is missing a little bit here as well. When was the launch date for the Xperia, for that Xperia phone? Why is this so far back in the... What the hell? What happened?
Play. It's a gimmick.
Okay, so all right, this is the context for 2011, right? Fast forward to the motherfucking N-Gage, or I think flashback. This is 2003. There is the portable console competitor was in fact the Game Boy. Android is a dream in somebody in Google's eye, twinkle in their eye right now. What this thing ran on was Java. It ran Java applets as games. You know the phone, like, you know when you had a phone during this time period and you could download like really shitty shitty games to play? that was using that was a majority of it running off Java. The N-Gage, they were trying to like advertise it for that, but it was not. It was so ass. I feel like he's gonna talk about this at some point, but if he doesn't, I'm gonna be so angry. The way you actually got games in this thing is completely absurd.
Gaming phone. Half phone, half game main. It really was. It was meant to be a phone, but also a full-on game console to compete with the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy did end up winning out though, due to having 1,474 more games. But that's not to say that it didn't have games. This didn't run just like Snake or some mobile game.
Yeah.
This ran full-on game cartridges. And it had some good titles. There's Tony Hawk Pro
He's
Skater,
not.
The
Oh my God,
Sims,
he's not saying
Rayman,
it.
Sonic R,
No.
or sorry, Sonic N. That's not a joke. It was really called that. It wasn't anything like Sonic R though. It even had Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2004. What more could you really ever need? And the last gimmick I want to talk about is the Samsung.
No, he didn't even talk about it. No, I gotta show this. This was ass. All right, no. Okay. Nah, so here's how you installed, like, games on the N-Gage. I'll look a video.
Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to swap game cards on the Nokia N-Gage.
You'll wonder why
And you might
this
be wondering,
requires
its own video,
a
but
2-minute video to explain why the N-Gage was ass, but I think it will speak for itself entirely.
let's take for example
Mordred Sim, thank you for the follow. Enjoy complimentary drinks. Have a good rest of your evening. Great username, by the way. I am also Mordred
slot
Sim.
is clearly at the top of the body,
Right? Like,
easy to insert
know,
and remove games.
as you do with a normal console.
Let's take a look at the device in case you're not familiar with it. So obviously on the front there's nothing that would indicate you could insert or remove games. They're not on the sides, no slot on the top or at the bottom. So how do you remove games then? Well, the answer actually lies in the back of the device. Now obviously there's no slot here either. What you have to do is actually open the N-Gage. So you have to hold down this button, then push downwards a little bit, and it'll easily come off. So it's here that you can actually see the game card itself, in this case Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
All right, do you guys see the problem? Ironically, I've purchased for Fahrenheit, Gawain, and Bargas. Honestly, valid, because Barguest is wonderful. Large women. We love large muscular women. All right, do you guys see the problem about trying to get that game out? You guys are smart. I believe you guys. You can do this, right? It's like that funny game with the parking management. What do you think is the best way to get this game out of the console?
But even from this position, you can't remove the game. So if you can believe it, you actually have to remove the battery of the N-Gage before this is possible. Now, even in this position, you can't remove the game. What you have to do is push down on the spring and then slide it out. So that's actually how you remove the games on this device. Very intuitive. So let's say we want to play this gem of a game, Pathway to Glory.
What? Hold on. What was that review?
This gem of a game.
A AAA title for the N-Gage. Reviewed by GameSpot. Didn't they release another model where this wasn't an issue? I don't remember another model of an N-Gage. Hold up. Oh, what? They did make a second one. I don't even remember the second one even existing. I didn't realize they lived long enough to even make one. The N-Gage QD. Okay, hold up. Another... Yeah. Oh yeah, there's another feature was that the speaker and microphone were located on the side edge of the phone. This often resulted into many describing it a talking phone. In order, yeah. Did they even? It's smaller and rounder. Okay, there we go. That's better. It had a little slot, but I don't. Why did they even do this? They released a newer model a year later? What the hell? Huh. Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, here's also another problem. Yeah, the game software version. It was running Symbian, which, like I mentioned, was, what was it? Java-based? It was bad. Oh, written in C++. My bad. The games were written in Java. But yeah, no, that aged bad. Okay, hold up. I want to. We're gonna continue on. What is considered the true AAA title for the N-Gage? Hold on. Pathway to Glory. N-Gage. Is this a tactical shooter? Riveting gameplay. This is AAA gaming in the 2000s. There's not even any like sound effects. It's like just one channel. It's dumb. How much do they charge for this thing? What was the MSRP for 3? Oh. Hold on. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep thinking about it. This was in 2003. How much is it? $500? Oh, this one is bad, but like it's just for a dumb reason too.
Galaxy Beam. This is kind of breaking the theme of the video since it is a modern touchscreen smartphone like I ragged on in the beginning, but I wanted to mention it regardless because I really love it. It's just a normal Samsung Galaxy S3 but with a projector stuck in it.
So you could
Okay,
like
up to now I've been excluding a
things with
certain
it.
type of phone, and that is internet phones.
internet phones?
When you hear the term internet phone, you probably think of something like the BlackBerry. Before the iPhone, I feel like BlackBerry was largely considered one of the best ways to have the internet on your phone. It's what every businessman used to check emails
It was
and do
peak.
internet businessy phone things.
And the keyboard
but
was
there
great.
was a lot of experimentation and question on how to take the internet mobile long before the BlackBerry. In 1996, the Nokia Communicator was the first ever phone to load up a traditional HTML website on a phone, and exclusively in Finland. Between that and the BlackBerry, there were a lot of ideas for what a mobile internet could look like, some of which weren't even phones. This device is the Sony Vaio UX. I think that's how you pronounce it.
The funny boy. I
No
love
one's
this
ever told
guy.
me otherwise. This is one of the most interesting devices I've ever seen. I love it. It looks a little bit like a debit machine, but I assure you it is not. This is from an era before internet on phones was a widespread thing, but for people who still wanted a portable computer experience.
Wait, no,
It's
you're
not
lying.
very
That's
much a
that's
cell phone,
Vista.
and it's not very much a laptop. It's somewhere in between. It has a full screen display that pops up to reveal a full QWERTY keyboard.
It was a
It's
micro.
got a little mouse
It's a
nub and a bunch
micro.
of different
It was
buttons
a micro
for things. It runs full desktop Windows XP, which seems awkward to say the least to use on a device this small. You can either use the mouse nubs for control, or it's also a stylus-based touchscreen. I love this thing. I was going to say that I would love to have a modern version of this, but I don't know if I would. It looks like it would be extremely awkward.
Wait, hold up. Don't tell them yet. Hold up. Don't say anything. I don't know if you can see that. My hand is on my hand is on my chin in a thinking position. This seems familiar. It's also smaller than a Steam Deck, so that's nice. Like, actually, wait, hold up. How much is one? Oh, God. All right, well, I mean, he got what he wanted.
To do almost anything on here except maybe check the internet or draw a picture, which my current phone does just fine. It would be really nice to have this full Windows desktop experience on the go, but I really don't think I would use it for much more than I already use my phone right now for. That's talking about it as if it were a phone though. What's really interesting is this did actually come back today. The Steam Deck is pretty much the exact same thing as this, only with an emphasis on games, I guess.
It's not.
But it could play one game that the Steam Deck could never. It could play
Why does every
Inkball.
pumped up
Have you ever seen
PC
Microsoft Inkball? I bet
like
not.
that look like an unholy child of the Switch and the PSP? It's the same era of design, actually. Specifically for the PSP. The Switch is this. Everybody had the idea of the Switch because, like, what? The DS also came out at about the same time here that we're talking, right? So people had in mind this, like, okay, left side, right side controller with the screen in the middle. I mean, that's just the normal portable gaming console type thing, you know? And then plus 2000s aesthetics with the nice glass and the smooth lines and stuff. You kind of get into this weird bastardization.
I love Microsoft Inkball. My dad
It
had
is, in fact,
super
a
early
product
Windows
of its
XP
time.
laptop that had also a touchscreen with a stylus, and me and my brother went crazy on Inkball. Go play Inkball. Anyways, this definitely wasn't the best mobile means to the internet. This actually wasn't even the best way to experience Windows on mobile. What did
It wasn't.
mean,
It
you
did,
might
in
ask?
fact,
Let me
suck.
show you something. Windows Mobile. When you hear that phrase, you most likely think of this: live
No! Kill it!
tiles and the mess that was Windows 8.
Kill
But a lot of
it.
People don't know that this was not the only version of Windows Mobile to ever exist. Far from it.
Please say... hold on, wait. Oh, please say Microsoft Kin. Please say Microsoft Kin. Please say Microsoft Kin. Please say Microsoft Kin. Please
Mobile
say
versions
Microsoft
of
Kin.
Windows
Come
date
on,
back as
come on,
far as the
come
year
on.
2000.
I
Back
know you
then,
can do
It
it.
was called Windows Pocket PC, and it ran on small phone-esque devices. Look at these things. It was later renamed to Windows Mobile and used all the way through XP.
That's just Windows... I think this... What was it? This was a rebranded Windows CE, right? Something like that.
Vista, and even Windows 7, before obviously being discontinued in favor of the new live title
Please say
Windows
please
8
say Microsoft Kin.
extravaganza
Please say Microsoft
that everybody
Kin. Please
loves
say
so
Microsoft
much.
Kin. Come on, come on, come on.
Garbage truck! Can't see him. This old version of Windows Mobile is very similar to a regular desktop Windows experience. There's a start button, there's a full file explorer, there's a task manager, there's programs like Word and Excel, even Solitaire. There was even Windows Media Player for music or even videos. There's even MSN.
Anyway,
this
like I
was
said, this
almost
was
a full
Windows
Windows
CE.
experience on a phone. Maybe not full, that's a bit of a stretch, but it's
That's a
as
huge
close as you could
stretch.
possibly get. And all of this in the early 2000s, way before the iPhone. You could run EXEs, you could even right click. This is all so cool. And again, I was going to say how I wish that there was some modern version of this today, but again, I don't think I do. Having this
Kin,
freedom and these
please
features available
say
is
the
really,
worst product
really
Microsoft
nice.
has
But
ever
writing a
released.
Word
Come
doc
on.
or going through an
You can do
extensive
it.
file browser or doing really any of this stuff on a device this small looks difficult, but it's still so cool to see a time when you could get a device like this. From a time where we were still just figuring out where the line should be drawn between computer and phone.
No, he didn't talk about the Microsoft Kin, my favorite worst product ever. Like, he mentions, like, smartphone, like, right, like internet phones, right? But, and even mentioned Windows Mobile, like the Windows 8 mobile. But there's a space in between
as far as
that he did not mention that I don't even
Windows
think was in
Mobile
this
to
part of the
ever exist.
presentation.
Far
Hold up.
from it. Mobile
Also, by the way, that's a Nokia HD. I think it's one of the Nokia HDs. This also had a version that did straight up just run Android. But both versions could run it.
versions of Windows date back as
I'm checking if he missed it. He did. There's a huge gap. There's a huge gap right between those first and second phones. Everybody. Also, hi Nerf. Please observe the Microsoft kin. The worst piece of shit imaginable. It went from new to fire sale in like 90 days. This was before. This was in the horrifying space in between the Windows CE and then just going straight up to Windows Mobile. It came in two flavors, the Microsoft Kin and the Kin 2. One of which was more of like this. One of which was more like this. The main thing that it was sold on was the promise of being basically like an internet phone, right? Handheld laptop, sort of, not really. It had a touchscreen. It did have social features. Like you could post on social media and stuff. And it was just... It also had that... It had a very prototype version of the tiles that we see in modern Windows today, too. Shit was rank, man. It was so bad. We talked about it like a long time ago beforehand. It was ass. The main reason why is because, one, again, it was Verizon exclusive, and just was not good because you could have, at this point during its launch, like, you could straight up just get a regular like, you could get an iPhone at this point. So it was like in a weird space where that was like a transitionary period, and it like just fucking fell by the wayside. Also, Nerf handheld laptop video? Let me see. If you didn't, can you post it again? Because we'll go to it again. Huh. Okay, it might not even be in there. I might have forgotten about it. I apologize. Please post it again. We will get to it. Like, it was... like, there was... We talked... I mean... The video is basically over. It's a good video. Thank you, Bijuru. We can move over to the Microsoft Kin. It was a disaster. And I feel like I've talked about this beforehand, at least. No! Okay. Let's just watch this tangent video.
Microsoft is no stranger to the world of mobile devices. Over the years, the company has developed mobile operating systems to run on multiple different types of hardware. There was the WinPad project in 1992 that later inspired the creation of Windows CE, and there was Windows Mobile in the early 2000s that later evolved into Windows Phone. And as I'm sure most of us know, Microsoft had a version of Windows 10 that ran on smartphones, but support for it ended earlier this year. Now, all of these products had their ups and downs, and the announcement of the Surface Duo last year marks a major shift in Microsoft's mobile strategy by creating a phone that runs Android. You've probably heard of all of these products, and
Surface
maybe you
Duo
were a
is
Windows
cool
Mobile
and based
user
though.
back years ago, or maybe you're anxiously awaiting the launch of the Surface Duo later this year. But today I want to talk about a lesser known line of mobile phones, one that never saw massive success, and is only remembered today as a small footnote. That product is the Microsoft Kin. And today we're going to be talking about how its 48-day existence led to one of the biggest failures in the history of Microsoft.
You could say that... the Confederacy actually
The
lasted
origins
longer
of the
than the Microsoft Kin.
can be
Very
traced back
unfortunate.
to another smartphone, the much more successful Danger Hip Top. This phone was originally released back in 2002 and was sold by T-Mobile, who branded it the T-Mobile Sidekick. Danger was a company started by a few former Apple employees. One of them was Andy Rubin, who would later co-found Android Incorporated, which would be acquired by Google in 2005. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak even served on the company's board of directors. The Sidekick was a huge success in the US and is considered to be one of the very first smartphones. It featured support for email, had a web browser, and could even send instant messages through AIM. Its flip-out QWERTY keyboard made typing on it very doable. The Sidekick also featured contact and calendar syncing, a very revolutionary feature for the time.
This is a video from Michael MGD. It's about the Microsoft Kin. So,
just a new Sidekick model, all you had to do was sign into your account on the device, and all of your user data was downloaded to your new phone.
revolutionary.
Now, this was unheard of at the time, as generally if you purchased a new cell phone, your carrier would have to transfer your data for you. But if you were a Sidekick user in the mid-2000s, you probably remember an infamous hacking incident that was revealed in 2005. By exploiting a vulnerability in T-Mobile's servers, a hacker was able to gain access to customer data, including Paris Hilton's contact list that was later leaked online, and even emails from a Secret Service agent. But that is a story for a future video. There were multiple models of the Sidekick released throughout the 2000s, and Danger maintained a set of online services for the devices, including an app store, where you could download additional applications to the Sidekick. This expertise was extremely valuable to Microsoft when they acquired the company in 2008 for $500 million, eventually merging the development staff into the Entertainment and Devices division to work on a new project known as Project Pink, which began development earlier that year. Project Pink was the codename for the Kin line of smartphones. Microsoft knew that Danger would be a valuable asset to them in creating the Kin.
Also,
the company
look
had
at this
already
2000s
created a
ass
massively
website
successful
design.
line of phones and had experience with cloud computing since they operated many of the online services for the Hip Top. The development process took about 2 years, resulting in 2 models of the Kin being released 6 months prior to the launch of Windows Phone 7. The Kin 1 was the smaller of the two, featuring a 2 by 1.5 inch touchscreen and a vertical sliding keyboard. The Kin 2, which is the model that I have here, is the larger device with a horizontal sliding keyboard. It also featured upgraded hardware, sporting an 8 megapixel camera as opposed to the one's 5 megapixel, and had the ability to record video.
Wow.
It also came with 8 gigabytes of storage instead of 4.
Wow.
Just like most of the Danger Hip Top phones, both Kin models were manufactured by Sharp. They also featured Windows Phone branding on the back, as it was described by Microsoft as a close cousin to the upcoming OS. However, the phone actually ran a modified version of Windows CE. So what set the Kin apart from other smartphones on the market? Its target audience. The Kin was targeted towards what Microsoft called livecasters, specifically people between the ages of 15 and 30. It was an ambitious concept, being heavily focused on social media, dubbed a social phone by Microsoft. And this is where Danger's expertise in the cloud computing sector really came into play. Microsoft advertised the phone as being always connected. Its home screen, known as Loop, displays the latest posts from your social media accounts. To the right of that, we have your contacts, and to the left, your applications. There's also this small green circle known as the Kin Spot that is present throughout the entire interface. You can drag things like photos to it to share with your contacts via email. All photos and videos taken on the Kin were automatically uploaded to Kin Studio, a cloud storage service. It was also heavily tied in with the Zune ecosystem. The phone synced data using the Zune desktop
solidarity with
and
bullshit.
could even listen to music with a Zune Pass subscription, Microsoft's music streaming service. So why did the Kin only last for 48 days on the market? Well, for one, it didn't sell very well, due to some of the limitations and for the price. Now, the cost of the Kin itself wasn't that bad. The Kin 1 sold for $50 and the 2 for $100. But this was a subsidized price, as you had to sign a 2-year contract with Verizon, who charged the same amount of money for data plans as they did on other smartphones. Now this doesn't seem unreasonable at first, but the Kin, even though it was considered a smartphone, it did lack certain things that most smartphones have, like a calendar and appointment application. But this was because it was specifically intended for a younger audience. But charging the same amount of money for a data plan didn't really give potential buyers an incentive to purchase the Kin over another smartphone. But this was not the only reason. Despite the Kin being social media centered, it lacked some basic social media functionality like the ability to retweet people and post images to Twitter. It also had no games, no app store, no flash support, and no IM, again something that you would think a phone targeted towards teenagers would have. But all of this was due to a much larger problem that plagued the Kin from day one, and that was disputes between executives at Microsoft during development, which resulted in the Kin being released in the state that it was. Ultimately, only 48 days after it was introduced, Microsoft pulled the plug on the entire Kin line and canceled its plans for its launch in the UK. 1 month later, Verizon stopped selling the Kin and sent all of its unsold stock back to Microsoft. It's estimated that only around 9,000 units of the Kin were sold. Not the anticipated outcome for a project that cost Microsoft about $1 billion. But not all was lost with the Kin. Microsoft cleverly decided to update the firmware on their unsold Kin units to remove many of the social and web-focused features, including the Kin Spot. Now, while this did remove much of the phone's main functionality, it resulted in the Kin 1M and Kin 2M, which were offered for sale in November of 2010.
For like $1.
Since the web-focused features were removed, these new Kin models were reclassified as feature phones instead of smartphones, which meant they did not require a data plan. The price also dropped drastically for both models. The Kin 1M was now $20 and the 2M $50, both on a 2-year contract with Verizon. Interestingly enough though, the Kin didn't lose all of its internet-related features. One huge functionality that remained was the ability to use a Zune Pass subscription on the phone. However, the client was modified to only allow streaming over Wi-Fi. And just like the original Kin models, you could sync the M phones with the Zune application on your computer to copy things like music and TV shows. But 2 months after the Kin relaunch, Microsoft shut down Kin.com along with the back-end services that powered the Kin's Loop home screen and other web-related services.
All of it in like
this essentially rendered the original Kin models feature phones, just like the 1M and 2M. On top of that, all user data stored on Kin Studio was deleted, but users were notified of this in advance so they could back up any data. So what happened with the 9,000 people who purchased one of the original models? Well, Verizon allowed them to trade in their now not smartphone for a free 3G phone of their choice. Although I wasn't able to find any information on if there were any restrictions on this offer. Ironically, the Kin lasted longer as a feature phone than as a smartphone, which again was its initial purpose. The 2M was discontinued by Verizon in August of 2011.
Now that I know that these were only like 9,000 of them sold, the fact that I found a Kin 1 and 2 at a previous workplace is so like, dang, I wish I could keep them. Because now they're like relics. They're like historical fossils.
And while I wasn't able to find an exact date when the 1M was killed off, I'm sure it wasn't too long after that. The Microsoft Kin line of smartphones is definitely a unique chapter in the company's history. What began as an ambitious project resulted in a product that, due to corporate infighting, wasn't all it was meant to be. And today, we remember it as the smartphone that was sold for only 48 days, making it one of the shortest-lived tech products of all time. That's all
One
for
of the
today's
phones of
video.
all time,
But if you're interested
truly.
in some more Microsoft Kin goodness, I'll have another video linked up in the cards that'll be over on my Extras channel. That video will detail some of the odd things that I discovered about this specific Kin unit that I have here, and it kind of explains why I wasn't able to showcase the operating system or any of the applications running on the Kin in this video. I know that was kind of unfortunate, but I still hope you guys enjoyed this video nonetheless. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to get some.
So it was so sad. It was so like at one point they were in fact selling them for like $1, and I'm like, it sucked. It was so sad. Okay, no sad, more silly. Let's go back to silly. All right. So I got a video for everybody here for making the world's smallest keyboard, and we're not joking this time. It's like really small, and it is a fantastic shitpost, and I do love it. So please observe.
This is my average size gaming setup, and I made this average size keyboard last year. If you didn't know, I'm extremely insecure about my size. Like, look at this keyboard. I really wish it was a lot smaller. After using it for a while, I realized that I just wasn't happy with it. I mean, sure, it's one of the smallest, if not the smallest USB keyboard out there, and much smaller than the ones you can buy online, but I just wasn't happy with the size. So in order to cope with my insecurity, I set out on a mission in this video to make the world's smallest keyboard again. And of course, I'll be playing various games to test out the keyboard, while also use it for CADing and different software to test it out for productivity. Because if you have the world's smallest keyboard, you're definitely going to want to whip it out and show it off to all your coworkers. Results may vary, and we're not responsible if you get in trouble with HR. Like, come on, if someone tells you size doesn't matter, they're only fooling themselves. Before we dive into making the world's smallest keyboard, there are some design changes we first need to discuss, because there were a lot of suggestions from you guys for the previous keyboard. The top suggestion was to add number keys on the layout, because as you can see, there are no numbers on this keyboard. You technically can type numbers using the function key and pressing these letters, but this isn't an ideal situation, especially when Steam sales drop and you need to type your parents' credit card number as fast as possible. So yeah, we're going to add the row of numbers on our new keyboard. And while we're on the topic of adding keys, we'll also include other missing keys, like the square brackets, plus sign, and the minus sign. All very important for ASCII art.
Ooh.
Another issue we need to address is that this previous keyboard couldn't register the spacebar correctly a lot of the times. And I think it has to do with this button being in the center like this all by itself.
Flashback.
Oh wow, the spacebar is not working as I wanted to. No, please spacebar, please spacebar, please spacebar. Oh crap, no, that's not what I wanted to do. That is not what I wanted to do.
My guess is that if we place 3 buttons instead of just 1 for additional input and support, this issue should go away. We now have a pretty good idea of what the new keyboard will look like. With all the newly added keys, which includes numbers and additional symbols, we're looking at a 60% layout. But there's still one major question for a new keyboard design that hasn't been answered. How are we going to make this even smaller when it's already really small? I have a quick and dirty solution to make it smaller. No, but maybe. For our previous keyboard, we used these small push buttons as switches, but we obviously need something much smaller for our new keyboard. That's where these tiny buttons come
tiny
in.
boys.
I played
Look
around
at
with
them.
them on an old Arduino compatible board, and they seemed okay to be used as a keyboard switch. The total travel distance is much smaller compared to the bigger button, and it's harder to tell if the buttons are fully pushed down, but hopefully that won't be an issue when we use it for gaming and for other productivity related work. By the way, if you guys remember from my last video, I used this tiny Arduino to turn it into a keyboard.
This right here is my favorite thing ever. I think about this every day. I think about this all night long.
Last thing we need to change in our
tiny.
design are these tiny diodes that we used on our previous keyboard, because they're a huge pain in the butt to solder. Please, you can't make me solder them again. It's actual torture. Please! But not only that, they also take up a lot of space. Sounds kinda weird saying that considering how small they actually are. I did some research online and found this chip that fits 4 of these diodes into a single package. It's definitely a lot easier to solder and much smaller than 4 of these diodes combined.
Oh god.
Ah, crap. I dropped it. Welp, it's a good thing I'm an expert on finding tiny things.
Hold up, wait a minute.
Now all that's left for our design is finishing up the circuit schematic and layout. The schematic was pretty easy since majority of it was just recycling our previous keyboard design, but completing the layout was a challenge. Initially, I thought I could get away with using
PCBs
only
are
2
hard.
layers for the circuit board to save on costs, where there are traces only on the top and bottom, and it worked okay for the top layer where the buttons are located. But once I started working on the bottom layer, which had all the major components, like the microcontroller, which is the brain of our keyboard, USB related parts, and the diodes, things were not looking too great, and we had to move to the 4-layer option, where there are 2 inner layers hidden inside the circuit board. By the way, this is a chip that I designed and tested for my 5G research project. Look how small it is, which goes perfectly with the theme of this video. Everything small, like Nibbles' brain. So PCBWay did an amazing job soldering these components onto circuit boards. A lot better than I ever could. But on this channel, we build everything ourselves by hand. So we're going to take one of these bare PCBs and start the assembly. Now these are a lot of buttons to solder individually. And as much as I love soldering and sniffing flux fumes into my lungs, I'd like to reduce the total time spent with the soldering iron. So to help us save some time with these buttons, I bought a hot plate which will melt and solder the buttons onto the circuit board. Normally, we'd use one of these soldering irons to assemble the components onto the circuit board. This is for normal components, this is for extra thick components, this is for super tiny components like the O201s, and this is for... But using these irons to solder every individual button is going to take a very long time. We can instead place solder paste, which is sort of like a liquid form of normal solder, and let the hot plate do all the heavy lifting for us. And yes, these plates get really hot. We're talking over 250 degrees Celsius. In freedom units for our American friends, that's 482 degrees Fahrenheit. After the buttons are soldered, we can finish the rest of the soldering ourselves. And we're done.
I can only imagine the misery for this
Now
thing.
the next part is what makes me the most nervous.
Dealing with software.
We're going to program the firmware onto our newly assembled keyboard and see if we fucked up any of the soldering. Because if we did... To help with programming and debugging, I added this ribbon cable connector which easily connects to a programmer adapter. This provides quick and easy access to JTAG, power, as well as other communication pins, and it'll be used for all future projects and videos. I want to say I added this feature to be a good engineer and standardize the development process, but in reality, I'm just a lazy piece of shit who doesn't like doing extra work. Alright, so going back to software, we'll first program our bootloader onto the keyboard. Next, we're going to program the firmware for the 60% layout. And finally, it's time to test our keyboard buttons.
Oh god, the
Top row
buttons
is
are
looking
working.
good. Middle rows are looking good as well. And the last row is good too. Good job, keyboard.
Horrifying.
Good job, Just Kim. So we now have a functional keyboard, but how big is it? Or rather, how small is it? It's 66 millimeters by 21 millimeters by 5 millimeters. I can confidently say it's really, really small. I would know. I'm an expert on small things. And for our American friends, it's about the size of 3/4, the length of an American cheese, or just a bit smaller than Loki's head. And for all the people that kept saying how the previous keyboard wasn't smaller than a BlackBerry keyboard, guess what I have with me? Not only is our new keyboard smaller than the BlackBerry one, our keyboard has a lot more keys. So we have a tiny USB keyboard that works, but how well does it perform playing games? Not too well.
Oh god.
It's really hard to reach individual switches with my gigantic fingers. Like, look at this finger. It's almost 6 inches. I can sort of press on the switches properly if I hold and press the keyboard with both hands like this. But this obviously isn't a good solution when you need to use both the keyboard and the mouse at the same time. Also, because it has no case where there's nothing to grip the bottom of the keyboard, it keeps sliding around and makes it impossible to type.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast
as fuck, boy.
To help us push down the switches more easily, I designed the individual keycaps for a 60% layout so that we can 3D print them and add them onto our keyboard. FYI, these keycaps took a long time to finish and put them on the keyboard. I had to sand and clean each individual keycap as well as glue them one by one on the switches.
Don't you love 3D printing?
just to suffer.
As for the sliding issue, we'll 3D print a case and add rubber grips to prevent it from sliding. Now you may be wondering why the keyboard case is transparent. Well, it's not because you can see the inside of the case and have a beautiful view of the full circuit board.
Because they ran out?
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
It's because of this. Yeah, I added RGB LEDs on the keyboard, and I programmed a few patterns as a start, and we'll continue to add them later on this
Gamer!
year. Check out my GitHub
Gamer
for all
keyboard.
the project files. Now that the keyboard is finally complete, did all the new changes fix our previous issues?
Yes, yes, no, no, no!
The bottom rubber
Gamer
grips prevent the
keyboard.
keyboard from sliding around everywhere, which is great, but I'm still struggling to press on these individual switches properly. For typing, I can get around 70 words per minute on my regular keyboard, but on this tiny keyboard, I'm nowhere near my regular speed. So if you're planning on bringing this keyboard to work and show it off to all your coworkers, make sure your manager isn't watching you when you start typing on this keyboard. And of course, CADing or doing any productivity related work with this keyboard is definitely a challenge. Now believe it or not, it gets even worse trying to play games with this thing. I have to
would've
look down at
thought?
the keyboard pretty much the entire time to make sure I'm pressing on the correct keys, and this makes it almost impossible to play properly. I'm getting absolutely cooked. But hey, at least it has RGB LEDs, right? That automatically makes it a gaming keyboard. I hope you guys enjoyed
Correct.
watching this video, and I want to thank everyone on our Discord server where I share behind the scenes and early previews of our projects.
Terrifying
If you want to check out
gamer
extra
keyboard.
content or just say hi to everyone, come join our server. And for you longtime viewers, yes, we adopted a new kitty. His name is Loki, and he's the most affectionate and clingiest cat we've ever met. He loves to
Gibby.
play and explore, especially inside my office, so expect more of him in our future videos. As always, thanks for watching, and please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. See you next time!
Jessica, like they're just dumb, and it's very funny, and I like this, and I like them. I almost like want one really bad, for like really no particular reason, because I don't think I could possibly ever find a purpose for this guy, but boy do I want one. Okay, hold on. I'll be back real quick. I just need to turn on the air conditioner. It's getting hot in here. Hold up. It's so warm. Ah. Okay, we're back. All right. That was a lot of tangential stuff, huh? Right. Did I put this in the save button? No, I didn't. There we go. It's in the playlist now. All right. So what's the next one? Let's see here. Ooh. This one is, I think, I'm not sure how interesting this one is going to be to everybody. I thought it was fascinating personally. Long story short is the weirdest bug on Linux that I've ever seen. And it's about not being able to print because, you know, of course it's got to be about a printer, but it's very particular.
If you follow this channel for any length of time, you've probably seen me talk about some weird, wild, and wacky bugs. Some that are fairly recent, others from years gone by. And today is going to be the latter, regarding a subject that absolutely should be boring, because it should just work and you shouldn't have to think about it. This is a bug report from 2008 by A. Brian B. I am unable to print from OpenOffice. I tried reinstalling OpenOffice, but it did not work. I use a Brother MFC 240C printer, and I'm running Hardy. Printing from other apps has not been an issue. For the record, this is the title, not the description. This bug is otherwise known as the can't print on Tuesday bug. That's an accurate description of the bug, by the way, and you'll see why as you watch the video. The problem is in OpenOffice 2.4. I am running Hardy, that being Hardy Heron 8.04. When I click print, the box opens and allows me to choose the print properties. I have looked to make sure things like paper size was correct. When I click print, I get nothing. Nothing lights on the printer, no message. OpenOffice behaves just like it has printed, and yet nothing prints. My printer is a Brother MFC 240C. It prints fine from other apps, Firefox, Events, no problem. After this report, another user reported the exact same problem. This user also making use of a Brother printer, so maybe it's a problem with the driver being used for that printer. But they did point out something very important. I should add that I have been printing successfully from OpenOffice using this printer for a long time. However, this problem has come up now and then, and I'm not sure why it somehow goes away. Now, considering this first started happening when the user upgraded to Hardy, the most logical conclusion that a normal person is going to think of is maybe there was some sort of regression, and maybe there's something wrong with the drivers that make them intermittently just not function. So, an update came in, and they installed the update, and they said, OpenOffice started printing today. I don't know why. Perhaps it's because of a recent update. I don't know what update did this, but I do know that currently, the following updates are waiting to load. This user did the rest of those updates, and OpenOffice still prints. The other user also did the updates, and it was working for them as well. So clearly the problem has now been resolved. It was some sort of regression, the problem is now gone, and the issue can be closed. OpenOffice stopped printing today. The last update downloaded was Comdata? Ah, it broke for me too. 5 days later, OpenOffice began printing again before I had updated, so I'm not convinced updates caused the change. I just updated and still print. I'm happy.
We are
it's
learning
working.
about
Has
debugging.
any OpenOffice dev looked at this bug that can shed some light? As it is, things seem quite unstable in my eyes. I stand corrected. After a boot cycle, OpenOffice failed to print. And finally we got a new character. This is Chris Cheney. This is very likely not an OpenOffice issue, since OpenOffice has not been changed in Ubuntu 8.04 since June 27th, 2008. So the fact that updates fix and break printing in OpenOffice probably is due to something else. Maybe Cups causing the problem. After this point, a bunch more
Cups
people
is the
started finding the
Linux,
bug report,
printer,
reporting the same sort of problem, reporting that things were sometimes
manager or whatever.
intermittently just not working properly. But let's consider some of the dates where Brian said that things were not printing. So the day the bug was reported. What day was this?
Tuesday.
Here's a day where printing was still working. What day was this? A Friday. Here's a day when it stopped. What day was this? Tuesday. Here is another day when it had stopped. This was also a Tuesday. In most other situations, you could say correlation does not equal causation, and you'd probably be right. There is nothing special about a Tuesday causing this bug to happen. It's probably just the fact that the user is doing something on a Tuesday that they don't do on other days, and this is causing the bug to happen. But no.
It's Tuesday, isn't it?
In this case, the really weird connection that you would never actually think is the thing causing the problem is the thing causing the problem. This is a bug where you can't print on Tuesdays. And one user actually worked this out. A guy by the name of Steve. What a fascinating
Hero.
bug. My wife has complained that OpenOffice will never print on Tuesdays. Then she demonstrated it. Sure enough, it won't print on Tuesday. Other applications do print. I think this is the same bug. Here is my guess. Print to a PostScript file and observe this line. The creation date, chew, the rest of this. Change the chew to anything else. In this case, xchew. Now, a PostScript file is basically a printing script file. It is the thing you send to the printer to tell it to print, basically. Save the file, and it begins to print. Tools like Events work because they simply omit the creation date tag to begin with. This line right here is entirely optional. But that line saying Tuesday shouldn't be causing a problem to happen, and changing to something that isn't Tuesday shouldn't be making it work. Now something odd happens when my cup script copies the file to a temp file. Some of the code is rearranged, not sure how or why, but it uses a command called file to identify the file as PostScript. So file is a application that you're gonna have on your system. If we run on something like my zsh-env, it'll tell me this is a symbolic link located at this location. If I run it on something like my games folder, it'll say it's a directory.
It'll describe
Basically,
what
it's
it
just
is.
used to identify what a thing on your file system is. Now, it should be saying for a PostScript file that it is PostScript. This check would work on the original file you printed, but by the time it runs the check on the temp file, it misidentifies. Normally, it would return PostScript document conforming at level 3.0, but there is another check that happens before the PostScript check. If it finds Tuesday at the 4th byte of the file, it identifies it as an Erlang gem file.
Which
so
is
the printed
entirely
writer
different.
is doing exactly what it should be doing. The printer is doing exactly what it should be doing. OpenOffice is doing exactly what it should be doing. What you've sent it, according to the application that identifies the file, isn't a PostScript file. This was never a problem with printing itself. It was a problem with the application that identifies the file. Now, he didn't know how to fix it, but he did have a workaround. So, in the file that identified what to do for that printer, he changed the command that said cat to the temporary file to cat through sed, which just modifies the file to remove it saying Tuesday in uppercase to Tuesday in lowercase, because if it was Tuesday in lowercase, it identified correctly. As such, on this specific report made against Cups, this was marked as invalid, not a bug, won't fix. But there was a separate bug created specifically on the file bug tracker. File incorrectly labeled as Erlang gem file. OpenOffice does not print on Tuesdays. This problem
I love the name of the bug.
in a much simpler form. If you had a file that just said 1/2 and then chew with a capital T, this would come up as an Erlang gem file. According to the magic file, at the 4th byte of the file is looking for chew and then the rest of this date right here. Since the spaces aren't escaped, it sees the file containing chew at the 4th byte and it determines it must be an Erlang gem file. This person tested it with 4.21, 4.23, and 4.24. And weirdly, it was there in 21 and 24, but not 23.
Who fixed
it? Correctly determines the file to be ASCII text, which in this case, yes, it would be. I don't know how it got fixed and then unfixed the version later. Here is the really funny part about this. This bug report was originally made on August 5th, 2008. Steve's post didn't come out until, where is it? Right here. April 28th, 2009. And I mentioned this happened across a bunch of different versions of file. This wasn't just an 8.04 bug. It affected Hardy, 8.04, but also Intrepid, Jaunty, and the yet at the time to be released 9.10 Karmic. This was a problem that spanned 4 Ubuntu versions. One of them unreleased, but still, 4 different Ubuntu versions had a can't print on Tuesday bug. But because it was such a random bug, and these printers were known to be a little bit flaky at the time anyway, and printing at the time was known to be a bit flaky,
people just
nobody
didn't
put 2 and 2 together. And who is gonna think the reason I can't print is because it's a Tuesday? Unless you have a good reason to think that, you're probably not gonna get there. Even though this bug is a really weird one that just doesn't make any sense, this category of bugs does actually have a name. Usually it's something like Heisenbugs, Bohr bugs, Mendel bug, Schroden bug. That should give you an idea of what this actually means. These are software bugs that seem to disappear or alter themselves when one attempts to...
Oh, when they mean Heisenbug, they don't mean like Heisenberg. I mean, they do. Just a different type of Heisenberg. They mean the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Fucking nerds.
Study it.
Why do I know that? I'm a nerd.
Every single software developer out there knows what I'm talking about. You compile an application and it has a bug. Just to be sure, you're like, let's compile it again. The bug vanishes. Was the bug ever real? Was it a caching issue? Did you forget to save a file? Is it a race condition and it's gonna come back? You have no idea. Who knows? All you know is that the bug seemed to have happened and it seems to be gone.
So it's not your problem anymore. Yay!
And that's how I feel about this one. This is such a stupid bug, right? It's not a stupid bug because, oh, it should have been fixed and, oh, how did it stick around for so long? It's a stupid bug because the conditions to make it happen just are dumb, right? Like, who is gonna think that Tuesday is the reason that you can't print? And someone actually thought it. I don't know how, but that's awesome. So let me know your thoughts down below. Did you know about the can't print on Tuesday bug? Are you just discovering it now? Let me know about
It's
some other
such
dumb bugs
an
you know about, and
exceptionally
maybe I'll talk about them. So if you liked the video, go like the video. And if you
It's just such an exceptionally, like, weird thing that I can't help but, like, be enamored by it. Because it's just so weird and so specific, and, like, this weird, like, the stuff that you would have to go through to, like, what's the word? Like, to Sherlock your way through getting a solution is so fascinating to me, which is why I, like, love this bug in particular. Because it's just, like, it makes you think about all the other stuff that's, like, behind the scenes that could not work, that is causing the problem. And it's just, like, I don't know. Like, troubleshooting to me, I think, is fascinating. Like, obviously, finding out what's wrong is fascinating. Knowing how systems work is fascinating. Seeing what doesn't work when things break, also kind of neat. But also, at the same time, I'm frustrated. But you get what I mean. It's so neat. But it's like, but when you fix it, you feel like a fucking genius, right? It's so cool. Okay. This one is a video about a trend that went back, let's say, I don't know, currently about 15 years. Do y'all remember when, like, Froyo got, like, super popular for no reason? Cass, thank you for the resub. As expected with programming, I feel educated but still confused. Honestly, that is programming in a nutshell. Like, it works. I'm glad it does, but God help me if you tried to ask me how it works, because I could not tell you. But it passes the tests. It passed through everything else, and it's all good. It's like, I almost want to say it's raising a child, but at least with raising a child, you get feedback that does make sense. With programming, you don't get a lot of feedback that makes sense. You just get feedback, and it's either it works, you think it works, or it's garbage. And that is definitely less qualifications than a child. All right, next video. Yeah. Remember frozen yogurt? I remember frozen yogurt. I thought frozen yogurt was cool. What happened to frozen yogurt? I have a feeling people probably could guess, but I want to find out together about yogurt.
The year is 2005, and the United States is about to get hit with an influx of frozen yogurt establishments that, despite the recession, managed to become a multi-billion-dollar industry. And yet, by 2020, frozen yogurt production in the US would return to pre-2006 levels. So what happened? How did frozen yogurt go from being on every corner to just kind of fading into the background? This is the story of the rise and fall of the frozen yogurt industry.
Jerk it out by the Caesars.
People have been eating regular non-frozen yogurt for thousands of years.
Like cheese
but Massachusetts-based company Hood is credited with first serving it frozen in the 1970s. It grew in popularity and spread across the country, with chains like Everything Yogurt and TCBY popping up in New York and Arkansas, respectively.
Is the answer COVID? It's going to be most likely. I mean, part of it's always COVID, you know?
Fitness craze, because frozen yogurt was seen as a healthy alternative to ice cream. And initially, that was mostly accurate. Yogurt is naturally more tart than ice cream, and the fact that it had live cultures in it sounded good for gut health. At first, you'd see a lot of fruit flavors, but eventually that morphed into flavors like Oreo and cake batter, but we'll talk about that later. Momentum died down in the mid to late 90s, and the frozen yogurt scene was relatively quiet. That is, until 2005. In January 2005, Shelley Huang and Young Lee opened a little frozen yogurt place in West Hollywood called Pinkberry. And for all intents and purposes, we can credit Pinkberry with kicking off the frozen yogurt craze of the late 2000s. People were coming from all over LA to eat at this place that apparently wasn't all that bad for you. It also didn't hurt that a ton of celebrities were spotted with Pinkberry. And as they opened more and more locations, their popularity continued to skyrocket. So naturally, competitors started to pop up, at first mostly in Southern California. In 2006, we got Yogurtland, and then in 2007, there was Menchie's, and in 2008, there was Tutti Frutti. And that brings us to what I'm going to call the golden age of frozen yogurt.
I don't remember
This roughly
any of
6-year
these.
period between 2009 and 2015. If you were a teenager anytime during this era, you know that frozen yogurt places had a chokehold on our social lives. So what the heck was going on in 2009 and 2010 that specifically led to this boom? Well, first of all, the craze spread outside of California and took off nationwide. Places like 16 Handles and Yogurtland helped popularize the self-serve machines and toppings.
None of
And
these
instead of just
locations
serving plain
ring a
or
bell
fruit-flavored
anymore
yogurt,
to
places
me.
introduced those flavors that we talked about earlier,
Like
Oreo,
Pinkberry, I
birthday
guess.
cake, chocolate, cookie dough. In order to go mainstream, the industry kind of had to depart from its original focus on health. This
Hello,
boom also
Small.
coincided perfectly with the rise of social media. All these places
Yeet.
had super bright colored interiors, and the yogurt swirls and toppings were really visually appealing. Twitter launched in
frozen yogurt.
2006 and Instagram launched in 2010,
Yogurt.
so there was this kind of built-in marketing for these really photogenic locations. On top of that, private equity firms were pouring money into these businesses. So between
Oh, there we go. Private equity. It's happening. It's happening.
You gotta get the money somehow.
Private equity. It's happening.
2009 and 2015, the number of froyo spots in the US literally doubled, up to nearly 3,000 in the US alone. In order to relive some of the nostalgia, I made a little trip to a landmark in frozen yogurt history.
I'm
So
here outside
what
of
was
Richmond,
your
Virginia,
go-to
at
frozen
what
yogurt
was
chain?
the first Sweet Frog
I
location
don't.
in the
I
entire
think it
world.
was
Now
Sweet
is
Frog,
an
probably.
insurance doctor.
I don't even remember
So
anymore.
this was the first of
For
what
me,
would go
we
on to
had
become over
Orange Leaf.
350 locations.
I love how
Since this
all
one's
of
closed
these
down, I'm gonna
names
go
are
to one
just
that's like half a mile from here.
no
For those of
fucking
us on
clue
the
anymore.
East Coast, Sweet Frog was the biggest player in the froyo game. I feel like it was the name brand that best embodied the golden age of froyo.
All of these
and
are just
everyone else felt like a wannabe
mysterious
competitor. As I
now.
was eating it, I was reminded
The
that one of
fact
their
that there
biggest
are any
tricks
of
is
these
how
left
quickly
is
your bowl
shocking
fills
to
up.
me,
It doesn't feel like that much,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's way more than you can eat. Classic case of my eyes being bigger than my stomach. One anecdote that I think
The modern
perfectly
equivalent to this is
exemplifies the
boba
froyo
places.
boom reaching its tipping point was when two frozen yogurt places opened
And
literally
CBD
12 feet
shops.
apart on Cary Street in Richmond in 2020.
Oh yeah, there's a
One
lot
was
of
Sweet Frog,
both of
and
those
the
in
other
my
was
area.
called Yapple Yogurt. At that point, it was pretty clear, like, guys, we all know this isn't gonna last. Anyways, for those of us who lived through the frozen yogurt boom of the early 2010s, it felt like a defining shared cultural experience, much like soda fountains in the 1950s or Dunkin' in Boston. It felt like there was one on every corner, and that's where we went.
But the question still remains, what happened? Like, why did so many of these frozen yogurt chains fail? I've been able to find a few answers.
I'm just
in my
waiting for the
research.
smash
So
cut to
what
COVID.
happened? Like, why did all these chains fail? And I'm
No,
gonna break
it
that
died
information
sooner than
into
that.
four main
Yeah, that too.
factors as to why the frozen yogurt bubble burst. The first two reasons are tied together. Number one would be overexpansion. Pinkberry, for example, admitted in hindsight that they opened
That's-
locations in markets that almost definitely didn't have a high enough density.
That is how
to support them. You
that
open
is
too
how
many stores
bubbles
that aren't
burst.
bringing in the revenue you thought they would, and obviously that's going to be bad news for business. It feels like they flew a little bit too close to the sun. And then the second factor is that
Melted.
the market was oversaturated. This is super fascinating to me, but some businesses like car dealerships and clothing stores actually benefit from being physically close to their competitors. But that's not the case with frozen yogurt. Pinkberry actually tried to fight against the oversaturation. They had these bright colors and this pretty distinctive theming, and they ended up serving at least 6 different lawsuits to froyo chains for copying their branding. But it wasn't enough in the end to balance out the overpopulation.
copying
There's this
pink.
CNBC article from 2013 about froyo that has some really funny
copying
quotes in it where people are like, there's
colors.
plenty of room to grow in the frozen yogurt space. Turns out, not entirely accurate. Okay, factor number 3 is that, surprise, it wasn't actually all that healthy. Frozen yogurt might be lower in fat and calories than ice cream, but it has just as much, if not more, sugar. It was also easy for people to grow skeptical of the health
I didn't
claims
know it
when
had
you're
more
literally
sugar.
topping up your frozen yogurt with straight up candy. Pinkberry and others
Why?
ended up getting
No
challenged in court
way.
on whether their froyo contained the probiotics and active cultures that they claimed it did. And factor number 4 is that the demand just went down. Food trends often follow diet trends, and around 2015 there was a much bigger emphasis on going dairy-free. And there was also a rise in alternative options, like people who wanted specialty
was it?
desserts now had easier access to dairy-free and vegan ice creams in grocery stores. One commenter on a YouTube video said the decline was because no one goes on dates anymore, which I feel like there might be some truth to that. These places were hot spots
Hey,
for dates.
OP,
A couple other contributing factors
I think that's a
include
skill
rising
issue.
prices. Like at the time I filmed this, the cost was 79 cents per ounce at Sweet Frog, which comes out to $12.64 per pound. For comparison, Yogurtland charged 30 cents per ounce when it first opened in 2006, and Tutti Frutti fruity was 35 cents an ounce when it opened in 2008. In total, my frozen yogurt came out to be over $7, which is more expensive than just getting an ice cream
for
cone
a
in most
bowl of
places.
ice cream.
Another thing that may have played
That
a small
wasn't
role
even
in the
ice
decline is that
cream.
some of the big names in frozen yogurt got some strangely similar bad press. In 2014, the co-founder of Pinkberry
We're not
was
even
sentenced
in
to
the
jail for
2000s yet.
assaulting a homeless
Or
person. And in
20,000s.
2019, the founder of Sweet Frog was convicted of
2020s.
domestic battery.
You know what I
Big
mean.
yikes there. So the combined
Here,
effect of
I'm
all
out
these
here in
factors
the
was the sad
Warhammer
decline of the
20K.
golden age of frozen yogurt. In 2013, the top 10 froyo chains in the world had a combined
Sweet Frog is still there, I
4,482
guess.
locations, but by the end of 2022, that number had fallen to just 1,902. So less than half of what it was at its former glory. Between 2014
feels
and
lower
2018,
than,
Pinkberry closed 74
like,
of its
Than what
locations.
we were
That
exposed to.
Kahala
That
Brands
feels
during that
higher
time.
than it should
As a side
be.
note,
It
Kahala
should be
Brands, who also owns
more
Coldstone Creamery, ended up
closures.
getting bought by MTY Food Group in Canada. And you're never going to believe this, but MTY also ended up buying Sweet Frog in the fall of 2018. COVID was the final nail in the coffin
That's
for a
what
lot of these
happens.
places that were already
Yeah.
on their last leg, since the business model was centered around, customers touching a handle and sharing spoons and getting close to other people's food.
I want you to live forever underneath
Oh no.
the sky so blue.
I feel so bad for the yogurt store.
So, what should we take away from the decline of the once booming frozen yogurt industry? Well, first of all, don't get into a market that's oversaturated. That's why a lot of people lose money in multi-level marketing, because by the time you buy in, your market might already be saturated.
Oh no,
Some
don't
people
get
say YouTube
don't
is
get an
oversaturated.
oversaturated market.
One
Ah
article about
shit.
Froyo from
Ah
2015
shit.
said customer demand is still strong and the category has some room to
After
grow. But I
Froyo.
think it's all about the best operators, those who bring something
I don't
special
really
to
think
the
it's that hard of
experience.
a
They were wrong about the demand and the room
And
to grow,
it's
but they were right
it's not
about
even
the
fad.
it's not an
You either have to
uppercase
get in
F, it's a
early or do it
lowercase
better.
F.
Like, don't just do it because everyone else
Just
is doing
wah.
it. That's true for business, that's true for YouTube. Either way, they say that those who don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. And to be honest, that kind of feels like a lesson for the smoke shops of 2024. Speaking of repeating the past, there are some people who are convinced
There's
that frozen yogurt is
no
going to make a
way
comeback.
that all
By
of
the end of
these
2023, the top
fucking,
10 froyo chains increased in number by about 50 locations, which is the first time in a long time
man,
that number has
50.
increased.
Oh
instead of
boy.
decreased. So
I
guess
still
we'll
don't
see.
even know where
Let me
the
in
near
the
one
comments
is.
what you remember about the frozen yogurt boom of the early 2010s. Like, what places did you have near you? What did you put in your bowl? And I know this episode was a little different from my other stuff, so
Boba
thanks for
tea
sticking around. And
still
most
needs to.
importantly, just remember
Boba
that
tea
even
is
when it doesn't
fine.
feel
It
like
will
it,
not
it's gonna
crash.
be
I
okay.
promise you.
I'll see you
With
soon.
the amount of Asian people in my community, I'm pretty sure it'll be fine.
No, boba tea will boba tea will be available, but it's going to be just it's gonna crash. You can't have this many.
You're telling me my two favorite things, boba tea and Korean fried chicken places, are both in a bubble and are going to crash? No way.
Boba tea,
I'm in
especially
denial.
because I went and I had my first boba tea earlier this month for the first time because we just happened to be next to a place that had a boba tea, and I'm like, you know what? I've never had boba tea. Let me go try it. It was just okay. It was fine. And
Yes.
it's like this can't sustain a full industry. Eventually, everyone else is going to wake up and just realize, oh, these are just okay. And it's like, it's not going to last. It'll just be a thing you can get on the menu at like tea and coffee places and Asian food places, and that's it.
It is, and you're sort of right, but there is still like more specialty equipment in at least boba.
But that's the thing, though, is that it's not special at all. If you can have this many locations this densely packed together, then it's not hard. Like, it's only hard in the sense that like I don't remember if we watched the video on this channel or not, but like
I'm
it
gonna
showed
just
that,
let
like,
you
a
know,
lot of
I am in
Chinese
fact in
places-
choking denial.
Oh, okay.
I am in
Sorry,
joking denial.
I'm very autistic.
It's okay.
But yeah, I remember.
Besides, Gongcha is gonna be fine. They have a Final Fantasy 14 collab. What could possibly go wrong?
There's that one boba place that has like, or no, that's not boba. That's its Hawaiian ice. Never mind.
Hawaiian ice is still fine. Oh, whatever. Anyway.
For now, thanks to the Sanic collab.
Hello, my name is Andrew
Ooh,
McLean.
we're gonna learn about trains. Speaking about autism.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Speaking about autism, trains. We're gonna learn about a British train, and this was submitted by Tokai. So thank you, Tokai. Train. I like looking at a train.
Hello, my name is Andrew McLean, the head curator of the National Rail Museum, and welcome to Curator with a Camera, which today brings you the Class 142 Pacer.
I wish I knew anything about these. They do look cute, and I do like them.
So here we are with the Class 142 Pacer behind us. Now what is it? Is it a bus? Is it a train? Well, it's something in between really. It's a bus train, and it's one of the most infamous trains perhaps of the last 40 years on Britain's railways, but it's also one of the most important too. Now the concept develops of the rail bus. Back in the 1950s, British Rail acquired a couple of
Now I'm confused what a rail bus is.
For operation on little used
like a
lines.
streetcar,
They weren't
maybe?
a success.
Maybe? That looks like a
1968,
Volkswagen van
guy called
on a
Charles
train.
Sadler Ashby
on a train
came up
train.
with a scheme to put a bus body onto rail wheels.
Now standing at platform 1. Well, it isn't a train, but it is on rails on a recently closed railway line in Hampshire. That's the significance of this Pace Railer, a sleek diesel-powered coach developed by Mr. Charles Ashby.
But at the same time as all that was happening, two major developments were beginning to be put into place. British Railways were creating a new high-speed freight vehicle which was designed to cure the issues of hunting where wagons would come off the track at speed. While British Leyland were creating a brand new bus with the National Bus Company called the Leyland National.
Car.
And if you take the body of the Leyland National bus and you stick it on the frame of the high-speed freight vehicle, you basically get the Pacer. Now the first experimental Pacer, the Leyland experimental vehicle, came out in 1978.
I'm trying to figure out why would they do
LEV,
this?
From British Rail Research, LEV, the Leyland experimental vehicle, combines the best in current bus design with modern railway technology to create a low-cost, self-powered rail bus which could be suitable for many routes.
And that developed in various forms of different types of prototype and experimental vehicle to something called the Class 140 two-car Pacer train. And that's the forerunner of what we see behind us today. The Pacers were built between 1985 and 1987. 96 of them operated in the north of England for much of their careers, although it did find a way down to the southwest as well.
I'm still trying to figure out
So
what
we're going to have a bit of a look to see
the
what
solution,
makes the Pacer tick, what makes
like
it
what the
special.
problem is that this is the solution to.
So here we are standing in
I
front
don't
of
understand.
the Pacer here. Class 142.
I guess
this
maybe
is
instead of having a
142,001.
full train, you just
See the
have
number
one
there, just above the
cabin.
lights.
But why wouldn't you
And
have a
that's the
full
first of the
train?
Class 142s. Now, they
Not
were
enough
the next development
people
on
to
from
support
the
it?
Class
Question
141 Pacer.
So like
which
a
hadn't been great
mid-space
success. It was launched in
thing?
Yorkshire. Just
So like
before
it's
this.
like a
Now, it doesn't
Like
look
a
so much like a
smaller
bus here because it
capacity
had to be
train,
redesigned with
basically,
a,
where
with
the
a train
engine is
front.
built
So
into the car.
instead of the big windscreen that you see on the bus, the Leyland National bus, you see actually there's 3 windscreens here on the 142. And that's very much down to safety.
It does look
at the time, British Rail
kinda
and
like a
unions
funny
were very worried
school
about
bus.
vandalism and people throwing things like bricks and stones at windscreens.
It looks like a school
of
bus from like
trains.
a
So the smaller
diesel
windows
punk
actually help
Future.
universe
safety
where
of
like
that.
cars weren't invented.
Now, as we
This
come down,
does-
you'll
I'm
see
pretty
some
sure
other
this is
interesting
probably
things here.
diesel
We have
powered.
the automatic coupler. Now that coupler there enables this Pacer to be connected to other Pacers or other trains of similar style.
I love couplers.
Now the Pacer was
Those
the
are
first
cool.
of a group of trains called the Sprinters. You had the Pacer, you had the Sprinter, the Super Sprinter, then the Express Sprinter. So very much with an athletic theme. Seems quite ironic given that the Pacer itself is a very, very basic and perhaps one of the most unathletic of British Railway train designs. Now we're going to move round now from the cab.
Casual,
Just have a little
casual
look
shade.
at the Pacer body itself. And this is where it becomes much more bus-like. You'll see there the twin leaf folding doors, very much taken from the Leyland National bus, and of course the windows as well, which are very, very similar. So the body shell was built at Leyland's Lily Hall Works at
Bus.
Workington in Cumberland. That's where the Leyland National bus was constructed, but the bus body isn't the exact body that was used on this particular train. It's slightly wider and it's been adapted. It's got the train cab rather than a bus cab. And down here we'll see there's a little sticker here. It says, you can see that, NH the Newton Heath. Now that's the depot in Manchester where this train was allocated from service in 1985. Now Newton Heath's a very famous depot. In 1878, the local football team, the Works football team, was founded, and that went on to become Manchester United. And the famous
Look at
railway
these
engineer Sir Nigel
wonderful
Bresley also began his
TF2
career with the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway at that depot
These
too.
photos
So it's got a very
shockingly
yeah,
hold
went
up
on to
well.
become
These are
Manchester.
amazing scans of these old black and white photos.
Yeah, these are really good.
Like, this is post YouTube compression. They look this nice.
The only
Damn.
the only problem in the photo that I could visibly see is this guy who's clearly like these two guys who are clearly moving during the shot, and that's it.
Yeah, like that's, I guess the only real problem is just the long ass exposure time means you get a good shot, but don't move at all.
Not
For
gonna lie, the
however
concept
long.
of a bus train makes me think of Mephistopheles from Limbus Company. Oh no.
I'm gonna assume that's a funny reference.
No. Yes, sort of. It's horrifying. Don't worry. It's
The only thing I know about trains related to that franchise is the Happy Town train that you told me about. Slash showed me.
Oh yeah, no, that one's fun. Hold on.
That's up there with like fucked dystopias.
The entire game, the entire universe is a fucked dystopia. Each district is just a specialty fucked dystopia. We don't speak about Lovetown. I just love Lovetown so much. It's just so
up there,
bad.
like,
I love it. It's so bad.
It's up there with like 40K when you like really examine like human society closely in some of the alternate media where it's like, oh yeah, humans are just the Strogg from Quake 4.
Isn't there one? Oh, shoot, now I'm forgetting. There's a Project Moon district. There's a district in Limbus Company that's like, it's basically like, hold on, why is everything in black and white? It's because you didn't pay your color tax, motherfuckers. We took your color away. What? Like, hold on. It was weather. I don't remember why that's the case though. Yeah, what's the deal with T-Core? What was the deal with T-Core? I just forgot like what their gimmick was. Well, actually, because I didn't play it. What is their, hold on. What is their stupid ass singularity? Other than the time, well, we already know the time track code. Oh yeah, there. They also have a related technology which allows them to collect time and repackage it for later use, such as cooking a stew that would take days in a matter of minutes. They collect the bulk of this from a partnership with Warp Core, taking the time from the millennia-long train rides that their passengers go through. Fuck, that's terrible. Oh, it's bad.
Is Limbus Company slash like all of this stuff? I mean, I kind of knew it from playing Labocore, but it's basically just, what if like the SCP Foundation exists, but instead they're just like the most evil form of capitalists possible?
You've nailed it basically on the head. Well,
Okay.
it's like Limbus Company was one company out of a giant ass group that each one
with
had their own particular fucked up technology, and because of that, they were able to do shit. And
you've got, you know, your each various flavors of original and similar to existing media, but not necessarily the same.
Also, also Project Moon, also Limbus Lobotomy Corporation was inspired by the SCP media. So like that isn't actually the case.
Yeah, I knew that. I just meant like in terms of summarization for the otherwise uninformed.
It's that plus the horrors of capitalism.
Yeah, it's like, what
because
if,
you
like,
also
all
have
the
to remember
evil,
the
like-
creators of the content are in fact South Korean.
Yeah, what if like Samsung, Monsanto, you know, Chiquita Banana, Arasaka, and fuck it, I don't know, Bob Page from Deus Ex 1 all were in a fiction, like a world where the SCP Foundation existed, and just using all the fucked up SCPs to make money in the most horrible ways possible.
I was gonna say I don't think the Chiquita I don't think Chiquita Banana should be there, but I think but I think Dole should be there.
Navy.
But I think Dole should be there though.
No, Chiquita Banana is the one that was in South America and had the Navy. Dole didn't do that.
Dole overthrew a government.
So did Chiquita. No, you're confusing the two.
Shit. Oh no. Anyway.
Dole is an Irish company. Chiquita's the American one.
Wait, Dole's Irish?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, Dole is like apparently not. I'm looking up now. Dole. Okay, actually no. Dole's old. Dole's 185. Is from 1851.
Also, anyway, anyway, Limbus Company mentioned. Okay. Moving on. I like how we went from this TF2S image to
Manchester United.
Fuck it.
Talking
and the
about
famous,
Limbus.
railway engineer Sir Nigel Gresley also began his career with the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway at that depot too. So it's got a very
funny
distinguished lineage. Now, as we come round, you'll see the doors open buttons.
More of a library
and the ways
for
in
a
which
random
we can get
person.
into
Hold on,
the
I got you for
Pacer,
that.
which we'll have
Hold
a look at later on. But we're going to look at the base here because this is very, very similar to the high-speed freight vehicle which was developed at the Derby Research Technical Centre of British Railways in the 1960s. And these were tested on rolling rigs, which meant they could get to speeds in excess of 120 miles per hour. Although the imagination of having a Pacer running at that speed, really quite imagine. It's, they were restricted to 75. No traditional bogies, and that's one of the problems and one of the things that makes a feature of the Pacer so distinguished. You've got the coil springs here, and because there was no bogies, because the wheels are just this driving axles attached to the frame directly, you get that incredible squealing noise that the Pacers when the
they couldn't pivot.
And also
that must be so fun to listen to.
Meant that the cab would be bouncing up and down when you'd see it on particular tracks, and that gave it a nickname of the Nodding Donkey.
Jesus.
So you'll see diesel.
Diesel.
So you've got the fuel here, and actually a fuel gauge down here. Still quite a lot of fuel in here. Not quite half a tank there, but certainly still fuel in it. This is still an operational vehicle.
The fuel gauge is cute. I like that. It's down there.
The engine down here in the middle. Originally a Leyland bus engine. These were later re-engineered in the 1990s, so the Leyland engine was replaced by the slightly more powerful Cummins engine.
Where the hell is the
riveted body side here?
Where is the engine?
Mainly steel, but also some aluminium, plastics also.
I'm sorry, I had to say it.
Fucker.
Steel body, and that's one of the things that made the Pacer so
The brain
distinguished.
rot's
so
too strong.
economical.
Venny, my favorite
£340,000 to make, which is about a third of the cost of producing a more traditional train. And that was very important. Part of the reason, a major part of the reason why the Pacer, of course,
we're being incredibly train-brained right now.
This tells you a little bit about this particular unit. So
it's autism hour.
I don't want to say that too much because I don't know if I have it.
It's got a driving car, the cab at one end.
Your ADHD is close enough.
Standard class, as we call that now. Pacer had no first class, of course. Then the weight, this one's 24 tons. The length 15.5 metres, width 2.80 metres. And in this particular carriage, there's 55 seats.
I'm not usually a train
carriage adjoining it.
Type person.
Now, the Pacer that we see today
although I do take
all-in livery.
local transportation.
It last ran in. It came out of service in 2019.
If you were a trains girl, then I'd tell you to play Metro
But when they first came into service, these were painted in the Greater Manchester.
No, that's just a daily life in Britain
livery
simulator.
Of orange and black.
First off, Metro's Moscow.
I was gonna say, it was like, wait, no, it's Russian.
It's a Russian.
I was gonna say, wait, it's Russian. Hold on.
And the games are made by Ukrainians.
And then we're going
Russia.
Metro Exodus is the only
daily life in Europe simulator. There, let me generalize it.
Now,
I can't be wrong now.
And see what it's
Except
like
I'm clearly
on the
wrong.
inside. So to get into the Pacer, first of all, we need to open this box with this key.
Ooh,
so
funny
it's a bit tough, but there we go. Very, very basic.
Also reflective of British life.
Now, to
True,
pull this
it is
handle
British.
quite hard, this lever. That should have released the doors.
Should have.
Then we move over to the door itself, because the door hasn't itself opened, as you'll see. But you'll see this little ingenious cutout here. If I push here, there we go.
Uh-oh.
The door's open.
Okay.
And for us to get in, we've going to have to come out these steps and explore the inside.
Train interior. Yay.
Oh my god, a padded seat. Shit. Luxury.
Luxury. Bike rack? We're in.
Racks.
We're so fucking
Have
in.
a look at some of the details.
Leg room?
Spirit Airline
First of all, we've
interior.
looked at one set of doors.
Minus the
So let's
bike
just
racks.
look at
Spirit
them.
Airlines
How to get
Premium.
Out of the train.
I once took
Again,
a Spirit
we're gonna get out
airline
here, so I'll
flight to
just explain
DC.
how
It
that
sucked.
happens.
I took a
The magic
Spirit
key
Airline
again.
flight to
And you
Vegas
see that
nonstop.
releases this door
I hope
here,
you were broke.
which has
when
the
you took
various
that.
I
buttons
was
for the
broke.
guard. The door release.
Okay.
It was for
Therefore, just means
FanFest.
that when the
I
train's at the
truly did,
station,
in fact, raw
the guard
dog
gets
it.
off through one door, checks that everything is safe and clear, and then can do the double door
Much as like I
release
do a
to
lot
get
of other
people
things,
off
apparently.
the train.
Why did I
So
say
What does
very
that
basic.
mean?
That just
Raw
shuts down.
dogging
We'll take
things?
the key back out.
I know what it
These
means. I'm
trains,
just like,
believe it or
wait,
not, are
what?
taking passengers to
Or slash
destinations
AEO.
such as Manchester Airport. So you can imagine
Both
lots of
are
luggage
valid, honestly.
requirements for some of the passengers. And yet, that's one of the first things that strikes you, the luggage space. Look at the luggage rack here. It's made of plastic.
Oh.
Runs along one side of the carriage.
Wait, is it just one
I
whole
mean,
last
that's
piece of plastic?
I've never quite understood why that was.
That's not
Up here on the
necessarily a
roof,
bad
they've got these
idea.
I'm just
grills,
like,
and that's
why?
the heating.
It could just
Comes
be
through
metal grill, you
these
know?
grills
Like if
in
it's
the
for
roof. There's a pod on
commuting,
top
I think that
of
makes
the
sense.
vehicle,
Like you're
and
not going
that's
to carry
very, very
anything that
similar
heavy.
to what you
But
had
no,
on
like
the
they
National
mentioned,
Bus. That's
one
where
of the
heating was
routes for
kept
these
in
trains
a
was
pod
going to the
on the
airport.
roof.
Oh
And
yeah, that's
come
not
down,
ideal.
Classic bus windows.
So
as
I'm
well.
just like, that's just
It's quite long today, so let's get a
gonna
window
wear itself
open.
out.
Maybe let's get a couple open actually, why not? Because one of the joys of the Pacer is getting fresh air into it. But one big difference between
Diesel
the Pacer
fumes.
and the Leyland National Bus is the seating configuration. Same types of seats, but on this side, you've got seats for 2 people. On this side, got wider seats, seats for 3 people. Now on the bus, it was
Seats for
only 2
wider
and 2.
people.
But because it's a slightly wider body shell here on the Pacer, you can get an extra row of seats in. In fact, some of the seats actually face one another, quite good if you're in a large group. We've still got an Everton sticker here from when it was in use. There we go. Everton fans might recognise that. One of the things I've always found rather amusing about the Pacer, many things, but this is one of them, the emergency ladder, which is over here. It's made of wood. You know, this idea of modern railway using wooden ladders.
What the fuck?
And what marks
Isn't it
this
made out of aluminum or
vehicle here out
something?
is
I don't
this
know.
isn't a driving motor second. This is a DMS L. So the L stands for lavatory because there's actually a toilet in this particular half of the
That's
Pacer.
nice.
Now, not all British Railway trains had toilets at the time, so that was one thing that was in the favour of the Pacer. And you'll see here the classic British Rail vacant sign. And let's go inside. Door opens inwards. Very narrow.
This
here,
sure
so the
is
GoPro comes
a
in handy.
in-travel lavatory.
The frosted window here, complete with this wonderful peephole, so you can just see through. That's in case you're at the station and you don't realise that the trains have pulled into the station. You can just check just to make sure that it's not the station you're trying to get off at, which doesn't give you much time, but at least it gives you something to do. If I pull back, it's very, very hard to get any sort of view here, but even signs in 3 different languages there, which is quite interesting. Trying to cater for different audiences here.
English,
So that's
Spanish,
the
German, and Japanese.
lavatory, which is why that's a DMSL rather than a DMS.
Why would
We
the
just get to go
Japanese
to
want to go
DMS
to-
because here we're going to go across the aisle between the two and into the other half of the unit. Again, another set of doors here on one side, but not on this side. Always confusing depending on what platform you're on.
I guess the only thing I don't like is the fact
sometimes
that
you
you
see
always have
people
to like
looking for
step
the door
up, step
and
down
realising that
onto
you have
it.
to go to
That
the
seems
either
kind
end.
of annoying
that
for
was
people
one
with
issue.
mobility issues.
And of course, this still has a lot of its original signage from when it was last in service about how you open the doors, about how you use the bins,
Press switch when
the
it's
safety
elevated.
information. Nolan advert still there from when it was in service. And the trains were run by Arriva. And then, of course, the See It Sorted, text the British Transport Police. So it shows that this train was in service till quite recently. 2019, this particular one came out of service, but the very last Pacer came out in 2021. That was in Wales. That was a class 143, not a 142.
That's a very impressive shot. There's like, that's the RAF is up here too. Like what?
So
crazy.
We're now going to go into the cab, and for that, I once again need the magic key. And for down here, the cab door,
Love the funny
Opens up
large
easy on the
key.
outside doors, I have to say. And here we go in to the cab itself. The three windows that we looked at, one on the right hand side here, centre window. Each window's got its own blind, and then the driver's position here. Complete that fan, we could do with that on just now because it's very, very warm. The windows, cab controls, and the driver's seat, which I'm going to attempt to squeeze into in a moment. You can see it's very, very cramped in here. Not the easiest cab to work in, and I know they were unpopular with drivers when they first came out. And you'll see the seat as well, remarkably short bottom to this seat, as it were, particularly when you've got a large bottom like me. I'm going to squeeze onto that, but actually that's deliberate, so you can squeeze in, because when you sit down, you can push the seat forward your backside, and you've got a much better position to drive from, and then you have a clear view ahead.
Choo-choo.
And we're going to look at the controls here. Very, very simple. Everything about the
This
pace
makes
is
me want to
simple.
play the
Here we have
Japanese
the main
Denpa.
controls. This
or
is the brake.
not-
Here we go.
Denpa?
On this side,
You know those
as we
Japanese
move
train
across,
simulator games with a controller?
You'll see here the power, the gears going through
No, I
on
don't.
the right hand
actually.
side here. There's also
It's
a
like,
little
it's like a
lever
genre of
just
game.
up here on the left hand side of the power.
The only train
And that's
simulators
actually
I'm
the horn.
familiar are
So
all
a
the
couple of
European
clicks on
ones.
that. Gives a distinctive beep beep noise.
Oh, it's cute.
In the middle,
Cute.
you have the air pressure on the left hand side. Various reasons for that. But the speedometer, you'll see it does say 100 miles per hour there, but actually the pacers could only do 75.
Why is
Various
it not?
other
Wait, why is the
buttons
units in
and
miles per
buzzers
hour?
here that you see.
What?
And also this telephone as well. What's that all about? Well, that's actually the public address system. So not to forget that this isn't just a driver's cab. This would also be the guard's compartment for when this was the reverse of the train. So you could do the public address. So press this and do the announcements about where the train was stopping, or when the train was going to come into a station, or to do any of those announcements you always get in the train. The call button to do more internal calls between the two members of the crew.
I'm in fact fascinated by
back
this
on that.
train.
Also, you'll see various things here about brakes, and
Buttons.
train overrides, the safety things, and the modern GSMR. That's a global safety management system for railways. So this is for communication using this telephone connector here, and that's for telephone communication with signallers as well if there's any problems on the tracks. And to do that, and I don't think you can quite see
like
this, but
why
down
were
below,
these
but
in?
if I go right down
These were
here,
made
this is a dead
in
man's
Britain.
pedal, as it was called, a dead man's handle.
So
the
why
driver
would-
safety device?
You know?
Which would make sure that the driver was awake and doing what it had to do, wasn't ill. Otherwise, the train would stop automatically. So that's a safety device that you get on the train to make sure that the clear road ahead, that the train operates safely at all times. So we're going to move on now. As I stand up there, the seat springs back into position. You'll see there, it's on a spring load. As we come round,
compact, but
see all sorts of controls for saloon lights. That's the lights for
Ooh.
inside the train. Switch them on and off. Various things for the guard to do. Fire extinguisher. And these track circuit clips for if the train was to break down, you can put these onto the track and circuit the signal so it goes to red, or another safety mechanism. So that's us
neat
almost finished with
safety
exploring the cab, but of course the Pacer ran to many different destinations, and how would you know if you're on the right train? Well, here is the destination panel board. So this one
Ooh,
says
I didn't even know how
Manchester,
these work.
Victoria. Now this would have been put back in 2011 when this particular unit came back from its sojourn down in the southwest, where it served for a few years. But Manchester Victoria was the destination of the very last 142 Pacer back in 2020, a journey from Kirby to Victoria, and that was 142004. And then you've got different stations, so we're going through the M's here. Marple, very, very famous station, because one of the passengers used to go through Marple was a woman who was going to visit relatives in that part of the country. Her name was Agatha Christie. That's how she got the name for the Miss Marple character. It's a true story, that. They've got stations all the way through from Bishop Auckland to York there, because that covers the areas in which the Pacers would operate. A huge part of the north of England.
realize it
these
was
particular units.
I was
other
expecting
parts
it
of
to
the
be more
country
motorized
too.
at this point. Maybe that's just a manual override.
Let's face
since
it,
the
Pacer
cars
was never the most
trains not
popular
off.
trains. People tended to loathe them rather than love them. However, they were a very important part of British Railway's story over the last 40 years. It was economical, it was cheap, it was easy to maintain, and that was vital at a time when Britain's railways finances were quite low. And so while it might not be as revolutionary as Robert Stephenson's rocket, or as grand, stylish, and as fast as the legendary Mallard, but it is an incredibly important vehicle. It tells a story of the everyday life of railway and railway passengers over the last 40 years in this country, and as such, it deserves its place in the national collection with all those other icons.
Very valid. It was in fact the people's train.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Curator with a Camera. If you have, please do like and subscribe. And come back next week as well for a special bonus edition, because we'll have a special film about the Leyland National Bus, the bus that inspired the Pacer.
Yeah, I'm gonna subscribe to a channel about a country's transportation system that I have never been to. I'm in. Okay. Okay, in more terms of, let's say, faster hyperfixations and just weird dumb shit. My favorite type of genre I'm finding at Friday is weird dumb shit. We got the classic Zach Friedman making a video about a solid Nerf blaster. It is a long video, but it is kind of weird because you get to fuck around with chocolate, and chocolate's cool. We love chocolate. Do you like chocolate?
Yes.
What's your favorite type of chocolate? What is your favorite type of chocolate?
I don't know.
Oh. Dang. Okay. Well. Funny video.
This is a 3D printed Nerf blaster called the Juno, and it can fire 15 foam balls in less than 1 second. This is the same blaster, except I printed this one in solid chocolate. What will happen when I pull this trigger, which also happens to be made out of chocolate? My name is Zach Friedman, and today I will eat a Nerf blaster. Welcome back to Voidstar Chocolate Lab. Ladies, gentlemen, and cyborgs, allow me to introduce Glenn Coco the Coco Press. He's a 3D printer that squirts not plastic filament, but delicious, creamy chocolate. And earlier this year, he helped me make my wife a chocolate Gridfinity for Valentine's Day. Some folks dissed her in the comments for not acting more grateful.
It's so organized.
And that was a skit, you double dog dingus. How could I surprise Brooke with a giant chocolate bar that took a week to print in the living room? Well, as the cocoa flowed upstairs, my filament printers were left with nothing to do. So I put them to work printing my very favorite printable project, a Nerf blaster. Well, at some point, I got my wires crossed and I accidentally started printing a blaster part in chocolate instead of filament. As I destroyed the evidence, I wondered, could a chocolate blaster actually work? So I searched for prior art and I found this video by Extreme Games. That's Extreme with an X and Games with a Z. They're not
fucking around.
It's titled DIY Solid Chocolate Nerf Gun, all caps, because they are not f***ing around. Except they were f***ing around. This is not a chocolate Nerf gun. This is a pile of melted candy bars cast into a mold of a Nerf gun. Not only does this bootleg double breech lack any way to fire anything, and not only did they fail to cast the entire other side
it's half a gun.
These schneefed up hype beasts made their mold out of green Play-Doh, so it doesn't even look delicious. This isn't prior art.
It's not even
This isn't
edible.
art at all. This is content. My spark of curiosity erupted into a structure fire of righteous indignation. I will build a solid chocolate Nerf blaster that actually fires, or I will die trying. And I'm only kind of exaggerating. Like, these homemade blasters are insanely powerful, and they're already dangerous when they're not made of candy. Please do not try any of this at home, and never ever fire anything except unmodified foam ammo. For you, safety is imperative. For me, stupidity is lucrative. Before we start printing, I have to make something clear. We can't make literally every part out of chocolate. Even a printed plastic blaster needs at least some non-printed parts. On top of this, chocolate is not exactly a high-performance engineering material, and the tiniest hitch of tension, torque, or temperature will instantly tear it apart. This means some parts just can't be chocolate. They would be too fragile to do their jobs at all. There are going to be some parts that the Coco Press is physically incapable of printing in the first place. So I'm using the duck rule. If it looks and smells like solid chocolate, and it works and feels like a Nerf gun, I'm going to call it a solid chocolate Nerf gun. If that makes you cry, clickbait, your body does not have the surface area to touch enough grass. And I swear, if one of you insufferable nincompoops calls me out for saying gun instead of blaster, I will increase your surface area for you. So this leaves us with a major question.
I will increase your
Which
surface
3D printable blasters are most likely to actually work if
That's
we
such
print
a
them in
great
chocolate?
thread.
I found my answers
Should
in
use that
the
more
one
often.
place I never expected to learn anything, YouTube. Allow me to introduce
Gasp.
Luke. For over a decade, his company Out of Darts has manufactured and sold a world-class foam arsenal right here in America. They carry everything from piddly pocket pistols to
tiny.
a $525 self-priming carbine. Luke didn't just point me in the right direction. He sent us a care package of blaster kits, magazines, and ammo to cover nearly every firing system and foam form factor. These proton balls contain real protons. I linked the kits and filaments in the description.
Wow.
And indicated they are provided for
Protons.
free. Let's start off with the full auto ball spewing Juno designed by Out of Darts themselves. This is a flywheel blaster. These motors power a pair of counter-rotating discs, and their grooved concave edges pinch foam ammo to fling it down range. I started by printing the Juno in PETG. Flywheel blasters are going to need soldering, and a soldering iron can practically melt chocolate from across the room. Once we finish the real edible version, we will just transplant our pre-soldered circuit. The time had finally come to start laying down some hot chocolate. The problems began immediately. As it turns out, the cocoa press was not meant to print Nerf blasters. Chocolate liquefies so slowly, the cocoa press has to pre-melt its entire supply of raw material right there on the extruder and schlep it around the entire time. The cocoa press's cocoa cartridge can only cocoa carry 65 grams of cocoa core, and whenever you insert a fresh stick, you have to wait a full 20 minutes for the whole thing to melt through. For structural and moral integrity, I had to print each part in solid chocolate, i.e. 100% infill. So the chocolate blasters actually involved more total printing than plastic blasters. The worst part was the grip. At over 230 grams, it required at least 3 reloads.
Damn.
There's currently no way
That's
to
a lot of
preheat a backup
chocolate.
cocoa cartridge outside the printer. I had to sit there the whole 4 hours, 15 minutes, plus 20 minutes per reload, times 4 reloads, for just this one part. But the grip was nothing compared to the worst part, the battery and mag holder.
The detail is
Weighing in at
surprisingly
over
good.
300 grams, I had to babysit Glen Coco for an entire workday to swap chocolate cores 7 times. The big stuff was obnoxious, but the small parts were the worst parts. The battery cover was so thin, the print couldn't even support its own weight, so I had to slice it into 5 segments.
Also, Violet,
and
could you
manually
explain to me
reassemble
why
them.
a
And bear in mind, you
self-priming
can't glue chocolate. You have to
Nerf
weld
blaster
it by melting the
is-
surfaces on a bottle of warm water.
is
The
a
only
thing?
bottle large and flat enough happened to be full of Toki Japanese whiskey, and though disposing of it was an arduous task, I shouldered that burden for the greater good.
Dang.
The worst parts weren't even printable at all.
whiskey
The
was
flywheel
good.
cage came out so thin the motors just punched right through it. Then we have the drive gear that pushes balls into the flywheels, and I discovered chocolate doesn't do too great with shear stress either. Who knew? That gearbox motor is clamped into place with this little cage, and I could barely print that in plastic. That brings us to the trigger. This tab has to push 2 micro switches, one to rev the
Those
motors
gloves
and
are
one to
ruined.
fire balls.
Yeah.
And that party pooper Isaac Newton says the switches push back. In spite of that fig-filled face, the trigger actually held up. Even though I kind of promised to use it at the beginning of the episode, I decided it was too risky to actually use. Chocolate starts melting immediately on contact with skin, so I could only handle these projects with white cotton chocolate gloves. Not white chocolate cotton gloves. I didn't actually use any white chocolate in this project. Nope, I had to print the worst part in orange. This may be a glorified truffle with a pistol grip, but it still looks close enough to a real steel weapon to make nosy neighbors drop a dime. So unless we want the Denver PD to paint a Jackson Pollock with my dogs, this thing needs an orange tip. So I went on Amazon and I bought some orange melting chocolate. It contains 0 orange or chocolate, so you know it's good. I melted it in the microwave like a filthy goblin, piped it straight into
0
the empty
orange.
cartridge, and knocked out the air bubbles with this weird buzzing gizmo I found in my wife's nightstand. I loaded this confectionery crime against humanity into the cocoa press, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but it worked.
It has an
The worst
orange
part
tip.
was the assembly. You can't use nut screws or any fasteners with chocolate at all. They would just rip right out. Everything had to be welded, did, and that meant I had to empty another Toki bottle. What a martyr I am, but it got worse. As
I think
I
this
mounted the
part of the
flywheel
problem here is
assembly,
that
its sheer
all of
weight
this
snapped
stuff,
the entire front of the
like,
blaster off, and the
melts
edge was
at
too
room
jagged
temperature.
to repair with my whiskey
It
ball.
melts
So I
as
chopped
you
up the
interact with
scraps,
it.
had Chef Mike melt them down, and I spackled them on like Bondo to patch the chassis back together. Then the wiring burst through the flywheel cover, and I had to rebuild it with even more globs of chocolate. But the grip was a nightmare, certainly the worst part. The Juno switches are mounted to this plate that's supposed to slide into the grip. Needless to say, that plate was way too thin to actually print in chocolate. But even the plastic plate proved problematic. Chocolate prints are so inaccurate, it like exploded the grip from within. I had to carefully excavate the excess chocolate and reconstruct the handle around the inner plate piece by piece. Then I had to fill in all those gaps with even more microwave chocolate. My Kogo Juno ended up being this lumpy patchwork of scars, seams, and sloppy spot fixes, barely maintaining
It looks like a
structural
weapon you
integrity.
find covered
It looks
in
like
mud.
Frankenstein's monster had an allergic reaction after losing a bar
looks like
fight.
me when I don't
hope
repair
my
my
baby
weapons
is more
in
beautiful on the
Metro
inside, because
Exodus.
if I have to crack the shell open, I have to literally crack
You have to
it
clean
open,
them,
so it
and
wouldn't
they
actually
get
hold
dirt on
together
them.
long enough
Really?
to get
Wow.
the shot off. There's only one way to find
Crazy
out.
mechanic.
I strapped on my most tactical vest,
It's not
buckled up
super
the cheapest
difficult, it's
helmet
kind
on
of a
AliExpress,
resource sink,
and
but
grabbed
it
my
is
last
fun.
clean pair of white gloves. Brooke and I donned ballistic goggles, loaded the mag,
Valentine's
and
Day
connected
gag
the
on
back.
Do you have
The
enough
cover was
chemicals?
too thin and fragile to actually fasten, so I just had to balance it on top the whole time.
Oh.
I nervously picked up my Coco cannon and crammed the mag deep into its brown blaster bussy. The chocolate was already melting in my hands, and
Okay.
the entire thing could just crumble at any second.
I love that
The
there's
pressure
chocolate
came
Piccadilly
down
rails.
like a heavy rain,
Piccadilly?
a chocolate rain. Would I stay dry or
Whatever.
would I feel the pain? Chocolate rain. I carefully carried the chocolate Juno to the backyard, took aim, and revved up. In the moment of truth, can I print a functional firing blaster in chocolate?
Does it self-destruct?
Yes.
Oh shit.
The flywheels roared to life, the drive gear buzzed, and a ball erupted from the orange-free, chocolate-free orange chocolate muzzle. Its chocolate hop-up actually gave it some backspin. I pulled the trigger again, the flywheels revved up, but this time, nothing fired. Masonry tumbled from my sphincter as I gingerly ejected and reseated the mag, but again, only a single ball was
Masonry
fired.
tumbled.
Then I
from my
realized what was happening. I
sphincter.
had a major malfunction,
I
but
shat
not with the
bricks.
blaster. It was the mag. To keep the ammo in place, it has this little sliding spring-loaded tab, and here's the key. It's shaped like a ramp. When the mag bottoms out in a blaster, the magwell is supposed to push that tab aside, which allows the follower spring to freely feed balls into the fire system. The pusher, as it were, is actually stopping the balls as they pop out of the mag, not stripping them off the top. But the blaster isn't made of plastic, so when the mag bottoms out, that tab doesn't slide open. The pointy ramp punches straight through the chocolate. By sheer coincidence, this was knocking a single ball loose, but it couldn't open the floodgates far enough to fire full auto. All I needed was that single shot. I have successfully built and fired a working Nerf blaster printed almost entirely in solid chocolate. Why are we only halfway through the video? First problem was I had to print every part of the firing system in plastic. Only the Juno's shell is edible, so technically this isn't a chocolate blaster. It's a chocolate-coated blaster. But there's a more fundamental problem. See, when I hear the phrase chocolate blaster, I think blaster made of chocolate. But everyone I asked seemed to assume I meant blaster that fires chocolate darts. You can't get solid objects through a flywheel blaster. This thing could not possibly fire chocolate, so this was a dead end. I'm satisfied with my sad blobby ball blaster, but you are the one who likes, comments, subscribes, supports me on Patreon, and runs into me at OpenSauce in a week or so you can get a free maker chip. The chocolate might be solid, but my victory was hollow. My work isn't done until I get a chocolate blaster to fire a chocolate dart. And luckily, Out of Darts had my back. I thought they were out of darts. This is the Cynthia, a bolt-action Springer by a very serious blaster designer who goes by the name Silly Butts. I assembled this on a private live stream with our patrons while I answered their 3D printing questions. Silly Butts himself even dropped by. Patreon members of any tier
What
can
a
watch that
crazy
replay at the
looking
link below
blaster.
and participate in our next Q&A stream. That's patreon.com/ZachFriedman, and here's my solemn promise, I will not promote anything else unless it's really good. I didn't even bother printing the Cynthia in chocolate because Sir Isaac Newton is an equal and opposite pain in my ass. When you prime a Springer, you're compressing a spring. and the spring pushes equally hard on the blaster. Basically, every part of the Cynthia's frame is structural, even the Picatinny rail, and the energy it takes to get a dart down the barrel is more than enough to punch a cotter pin through an arbitrary amount of chocolate. Even if I tried to make this on the cocoa press, it would end up containing basically no chocolate. I still had fun picking out some mod parts like the bulbous Fudge Jr. foregrip by Chance, the swoopy furniture package by Shoeless Historian, and the closed bolt mod by Thrillamint. It ended up looking like something Willy Wonka would use to put down an Oompa Loompa labor strike. But I built it anyways because I needed a testbed to design chocolate darts.
Oh man,
Nerf ammo has to feed from a magazine, it has to seal with the barrel without smearing against the
I just like the bolt action a
It
lot.
has to survive a high-speed trip between muzzle and target. I won't bore you with the details because they were actually very boring, but this is the outcome. I present the apex of confectionery gunsmithing, the mightiest munchable munition in the Mountain Time Zone, the ACF SDS, aerodynamic chocolate fin-stabilized discarding Sabo. The payload is a chocolate flechette encapsulated in a two-part sheath printed in IGUS iGlide I-151PF. That's a food-safe PETG infused with solid lubricant, and it's specifically designed for industrial food service automation. Its low toxicity and super slick coefficient of friction make it ideal for high-intensity print-on-food action. There really is a filament for everything.
salvo.
The Sabo protects the payload as it travels up the mag and fits snugly in the breech. When I pull the trigger, this cup on the bottom flares out to seal against the barrel, and the instant it leaves the muzzle, air resistance pulls the halves apart. The scrumptious slug's front-loaded center of gravity and extended tail fins create drag stability. This should reduce both tumbling and crumbling. The only problem is this isn't chocolate. This is just brown PLA. This is what the real deal looks like. Chocolate cools so slowly, heat buildup turns small details into blobs. If we want to print this
I
on
love the
cocoa press,
fin
we have to
stabilized
scale it
chocolate.
way up. That
Like
means our
I just like that it has
chocolate
like a
blaster has to be
that
able
it needs to
chamber
be in a
giant
salvo
round.
too.
If we could make the barrel itself out of that IGUS low friction filament, we wouldn't need the Sabos at all. Our chocolate dart truly would be chocolate gear solid.
Big dart.
That brings us to our final blaster, the Gambit by Flux Labs. Unlike the Cynthia and Juno, the Gambit's printable files are not public. Per the creator's request, you can only buy pre-printed kits directly from Out of Darts, who unfortunately does not offer chocolate as a standard finish. I was given permission to be one of the very few people to actually get the production files to print myself, and I truly appreciate Luke's trust. Give this guy some love for going above and beyond in pursuit of, and I am saying this extremely charitably, science. The Gambit is an adorable break-action pistol that looks straight out of Team Fortress 2, except somehow even cartoonier.
It is the hot shot from
Drop in a
TF2. Yeah.
Mongo shotgun shell, and then freak out because this thing is a f***ing muzzle.
looks like a flare
the Gambit
gun.
is a high
It is
with a Picatinny.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's the hot shot from
By that I
TF2.
mean
It is a
it
giant
fires
flare gun.
gigantic Mega XL dart so forcefully it audibly slaps against the wall.
Look at the muzzle. It has a muzzle
The silver
flash.
part is a 40 Max airsoft grenade cartridge, basically a pressure vessel with a built-in dump valve. You charge it with propane, aka green gas, and when someone pushes this button, it uncorks the high-pressure shmoo and sends the payload f***ing rocking. Since it uses green gas, it's technically not a high-pressure air blaster.
It's gas
but
power.
HPA is like the name of the archetype, not the name of the operating system. So the Gambit is intriguing from a chocolate point of view because the ammo is doing all the work. The blaster just gives it a handle and pushes the little button for you. Is this cheating? The dart goes into the shell, and the shell goes into the blaster. So if you consider the shell to be part of the blaster or part of the dart, that means I'm putting a thing inside.
I wonder
the
how
shell,
much
and
these
that's
are
just
because I want one
ontologically
now.
silly. If the dart is chocolate and the blaster is chocolate, it doesn't matter what the shell
Please
is made
save
of.
your money.
Aristotle says,
No, but okay, but if
"I
it's
get
cheap,
dunked on Platonic."
hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me
I
out.
have another
Anything you could make with this
long
is not
weekend
worth it.
painstakingly swapping cocoa cores.
I'm not gonna
The
make it
Gambit
out of
was way
chocolate.
harder to fabricate than the Juno. For one, it's meant
Oh.
for a printer twice the size.
Why would I
of the
make it
cocoa
out of
press, so I had
chocolate?
to manually split the
thought that's
model
what you
into
meant.
multiple
No, I want to
pieces
make a
and
3D
assemble them
printed
post-printing.
blaster.
But the real
Oh, yeah,
gotcha
go
is
ahead.
almost every part
Dummy.
needed supports. Liquid chocolate takes a few seconds to set up, so without support material, every single millimeter of bridge will instantly collapse to the plate. But chocolate fuses so readily to chocolate, the supports permanently meld with whatever they're supporting. F it, we ball. I ran the whole job, supports everywhere, and carved it back into shape by hand with clay modeling tools. The parts broke a lot, and this Sisyphean ordeal is what I deserve for trying to talk like a zoomer. Right from the start, I knew we would need some plastic. The Gambit's latch slides through a track, so if I printed this in chocolate, friction would turn the moving parts into just parts. Also, when we push that firing button, the button pushes back, and a chocolate firing pin would just smush. My patience is really running out for this Isaac Newton fellow. So back to the I guess I went for the latch firing system
Isaac
and
Newton is
special
a
low
bitch.
friction food
So
safe Mega
inconvenient
XL
when
shell.
physics
I
just
shoved
gets in the way.
my
Yeah, isn't
super-sized
Isaac
stabilized solid
Newton's a
chocolate
hoe?
flechette,
Him
chambered
and
around
fucking
et Viola, a solid
not
chocolate dart in an almost
Einstein.
entirely chocolate blaster,
Eisenhower.
were locked and loaded weapons hot, though not too hot. Or
Einstein
everything will
just
melt,
stopping
and
us
there's
from
nothing left to
traveling
do but
between
see
star
how our
systems.
chocolate gambit plays out.
Yeah.
Ah, crap! I waited too long, and the gambit collapsed under its own weight. Bear with me while I microwave some chocolate and perform some culinary field surgery. Chamber loaded, eye pro on, anus puckered. If this is the end, let it be known I did not die doing what I love. That would be your mother. 3, 2, 1. Chocolate in the hole.
It fired.
It worked!
It did a
With
little.
an ear-splitting
It
pop
did a
and a
poop.
blast of vapor, the Cocoa Gambit hurled its chocolate dart across the backyard.
He's
It
pogging.
worked. In fact, I managed to rearm the blaster and fire a second chocolate slug, which went even further. Unfortunately, round 2 was too much for my sloppy spot fix, and the shock irreparably shattered both the grip and the barrel.
You gotta
But this
maintain
was
your
a complete
weapons.
success. I had used a solid chocolate blaster,
broke
a full send
twice.
solid chocolate slug, a full 30 feet. That might not sound like much, but this solid chocolate Mega XL weighed 10 times more than the real deal. If this thing managed to chunk someone, they would f***ing die. And that, my parasocial pals, is the answer no one wanted for a question nobody asked. This is how you make a solid chocolate Nerf blaster. Take
This
that,
also
Extreme
reiterates
Games.
that,
That's what you get for making millions of views.
OG
Yeah.
parts are sometimes necessary for 3D printed firearms.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem with it as a whole. Hold on, let's see here. Coca Press. I'm so glad he lists everything that
Now
he
he
did in
needs
here.
to-
Problem is that
now
there's
he-
so many damn links.
Now he needs to make the 3D printed 50 BMG pistol. Have you seen that?
This is $45?
Damn.
Is this just the... Hold up, wait. Ah, listing does not include 3D printed parts. This is the kit. But also, look at that! Oh my god.
That's a rifle.
That's sick. Might as well just go to the main website and just look at all these. Okay, if... What the why are these... These are just parts. What the hell is that? Ooh, tiny boy. Oh, small.
Is a really cool single action blaster. You prime it, put a dart in like this short dart, and fire. This thing can hit up to 120 feet per second with short darts. It is also capable of firing.
Oh wait, it's $20 and I can just straight up just buy it. It even comes in Ava colors. Cute. I'm not getting into this. This is not my new hobby. Don't look at me. I just like looking at them because they look funny and they're funny shapes. Hold on. What's the most expensive one? What the fuck? Is this metal? That's metal. What the fuck? Why are these meant to shoot darts? This is a skin for Apex Legends. All of these look like skins for Apex Legends. And this one has the gull to be still 3D printed. It has a kick. It has a fucking shoulder. What's the name of the thing? What is the name of the thing? I don't. What the fuck? 200 feet per second? What? These would hurt. These would actually hurt. Automatic electric blaster. We're just... People take Nerf very seriously, and I'm very fascinated at them. Is this... Oh my god, it's a lever action reload.
Oh hell yeah, you can break your hand like Arnie in Terminator 2.
Yeah. This one just looks like Gridman. How am I supposed to fucking hold this? Again, it looks like a Apex Legends skin. That looks like something law enforcement would use to make a Jackson Pollock painting out of my dog. Sheesh. Pump action slam fire bullpup. My god.
This is a bullpup. Post a picture of Bud Glock.
These are cool, but I feel like I would, in fact, just kind of get injured by concept of just owning these. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Ooh. Semi-automatic. Ooh. It's cute. I like it. Oh my god, wait a minute, what? It's a revolving... It's a... Oh my god, it's a... It's a cylinder! Oh my god. I hate the fact that some of these are actually so affordable that I'm like... I could just, like... get one. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Some of these are so tiny, I'm like, I could just, like, get one and... What the fuck are you? Oh, it's a bow. Hey, there's the Juno. $70 for a kit. It's not even the 3D printed parts. Also, wait, is this a... What the hell? Pull back and release bow. This is actually a bow. They've made a tactical bow.
I mean, they made the Nerf Galahorn. Like...
This is so neat.
They have a Nerf Fortnite gun.
That is true. That looks...
The thing...
Yo! It's the Halo pistol.
That is the Magnum.
That's straight up the Halo pistol. Well, it's advertised too. It's Halo MG6 Fleckware.
I wonder how Microsoft feels about that.
Do they care? I feel like they don't care enough.
Probably wouldn't care that much.
They don't care. Oh wait, they don't care enough.
If it looks like that.
Oh wait, no, I just realized it's the This is the hardware kit. It's again. This is just This is just parts.
Oh, it's like if you want to make the Magnum and it shoot Nerf darts, here's how you. These are the machine parts you need.
These are the machine parts you need.
Out.
But it includes the 3D printing files, and then you print it out using your own filament. Like this is an example.
Okay.
Which, god dang, if that's not a Halo
Microsoft
pistol.
could do something if they gave a shit about it, but
they don't give enough of a shit about this.
Why
would
this ain't gonna make money anyway?
Who cares? They already have these. Didn't they sell like a Halo Nerf something?
Probably. Yeah.
Halo Nerf blaster. They made a fucking needler?
Oh yeah, that's recent.
What?
Oh, that's not cheap either.
That's a needler. Oh, there's a specific brand called Nerf Limited. Jeez.
They got a Star Trek one.
What is this supposed to be? What is it? What the fuck is this? It can hold a magic deck? Why?
Incredible.
What kind of cross promotion is this supposed to be?
For stinky Nerf fans.
For Nerf fans who will definitely get kicked out of the venue. What the fuck are you? Okay, so they have all, like, a bunch of, like... Also, since when did Star Trek have a gun? Like, when did Star Trek have this?
Guns.
No, I meant, like... You know what I mean. I meant, like, this. What the hell is this?
It's I'm guessing it's like for the more military.
The
people,
phaser I get, because this is clearly a Nerf phaser. This one's fine. This is okay, right? But what in the flying fuck is this Borg gun over here? Oh, that's what it's supposed to be.
Oh, it's a Borg weapon. That explains.
That's still dumb. Why is it... Like, okay, so there's that. Okay, so they only... I guess they only made the need... Oh, wait, no. They made the MA40. That just looks like Bastion from Overwatch.
That looks a little, like, shitty compared to the other ones.
I think it's because they nerfified the colors, too.
Yeah. Like, Fortnite can get away with that, because Fortnite guns already look like Nerf guns.
Oh, the display doesn't work.
I mean, of course it's not gonna work. That would
okay,
be so
but what if it did?
I mean, that would be cool, but
yeah,
that would
but
be
also
so
like how much?
expensive.
How
They
much?
want people to actually buy this.
This is averaging like $200. Oh no, there it is. Well, no, that's Blaster. Whatever. Like it's still marked as expensive. So like 100.
There's levels of expensive. I don't know.
It's $100-ish. Somebody, hold on. I think somebody modded it to look closer to the actual. Yeah, there we go. That looks that's whoa.
Broke out the spray paint.
Like it got some. It even has like kibble in it too. I'm like, wow. Ooh, it's good paint. These are good. Okay. The color differences, that looks like an entirely different weapon with the paint. That's really good. But again, they had to of course they had to nerferize it because yeah, that would be very dangerous otherwise. I want one of these now. I want one of the tiny ones to annoy people with.
Isn't the Halo assault rifle based on a real weapon?
Is it?
I think so.
It might be.
Like somewhat.
Oh, what the?
Like not 1-to-1. What?
This is just on my sub. What the fuck are you?
I like this a lot. I even think with the 7U, it looks good. I'm so pumped for this. They already told me there's gonna be round 2 of this.
I don't. That's
so
not. It
this
doesn't
stream
even
is
have
not
every
for
letter
nothing.
key.
Like I'm not just gonna build this and we're like, oh, we can't buy this keyboard now. But dude, it's so cute. It's so adorable, bro. And the color is great too on this. I am so here for this.
I need to
It's
know.
called the Detour.
I need to know why it's like this. Why is it $200? Is an 11 U keyboard with an angled top row. Oh. Oh my god. Oh, what the hell?
That's $200.
Oh,
paying for less key. What you doing?
No, I know it's less key, but like because like it's because like Q would be this escape key. Then over here, like A is this tab. You would need to use a modifier for tab. Oh my! Why would you do this to yourself? Holy crap!
Yeah, it's like you can't even if you're just a normie.
I get it. You're I get it. You want to be funny, but like, sweet God. Like, just build a normal keyboard like a normal person. Even this one.
Mm-hmm.
This one has what? This has F1 to 24.
Okay, but yeah, that's a streamer keyboard or a video editor keyboard.
Honestly, yeah.
Like, remember that one guy who used to work for LTT who had like 3 keyboards and 2 of them were macro keyboards?
Yeah, I respect him.
And then meanwhile, and then I just beat him in an editing contest without using any macros and just using an Apple keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, F1 to 24. It looks like a stockbroker keyboard. That's what it is. But oh my goodness. Oh wait. Oh, I wanted to show this video because it's cool, it's cute, and it's the funny Disney Wobot. Last video because I think it's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Because it explains how they Disney did some, because like let's be real, Disney does some really good roboticist stuff.
Oh yeah, they always have. They have to for what they do.
Right. This one in particular, I just think it's adorable. And I don't know why. We're back.
Oh, we back.
Yeah, we back. It broke and it was
Acts
just
like we
being,
never left.
Yeah, it was being in particular very weird, and I don't know why. So, well, hey, we're back. Last video anyway is from Disney, and they make the cute robot.
Oh yeah, I've seen
iterating on the
these. These are
mechanical
cool.
design in parallel with authoring
Yeah, but
animations
how they get
to
made
develop
is a
our robotic
particular
character.
different thing, and I think
Motions are created using a custom stylized gate generation tool, as well as standard freeform animations. In the design phase, we use these tools to study the movement of the character and estimate kinematic and dynamic requirements. By leveraging off-the-shelf hardware modules, we can iterate quickly. The final robot design has 5 actuators in each leg and 4 in the neck. It also has a set of show functions: speakers, actuated antennas, illuminated eyes, and a headlamp. These show functions and audio are controlled elements of the robot that do not affect the dynamics of the system, but play a key role in expressing character. The onboard PC, battery, and other electronics allow the robot to roam freely for up to 1 hour. We then use reinforcement learning to train control policies, asking for a simulated robot to balance stably and to track the motion of prescribed animations. The simulator is augmented with a low-level controller and actuator models, which we derive from real-world data, reducing the sim-to-real gap. The artist-specified reference motions are parameterized by command signals, such as walking velocity and robot pose, and are randomized during training. The policies are conditioned on those same commands and trained to imitate the corresponding reference motions using PPO. Reference animations fall into 3 atomic categories. Perpetual motions, such as standing, have no clear start or end and continue indefinitely. Periodic motions, such as walking, have a cyclic nature. Episodic motions, such as animation clips, have a predefined duration. For every motion, a separate policy is trained. For walking motions, we use a procedural gate engine to generate stylized walking references at different velocities. During runtime, trained policies are deployed to the real robot. The animation engine receives input from the operator and fuses animations from a database with the joystick commands. Based on that, it selects which policy to activate and streams the appropriate conditional inputs to the active policy. The policy outputs actuator set points and is fed back the estimated robot state. Additionally, the animation engine synchronizes the control of show functions and audio.
I think it's so neat that, like, puppeteering is also partial, like, the puppeteering is also now computerized
Here,
too.
a standing policy is driven through its command range.
To have a little, you know, to make it
reference
do its
corresponding
funny
to the
character.
commands is seen in blue.
E.
Very creative. And it's matching the reference motion almost 1-to-1, minus some, like, motor backlash, you know?
There is good agreement between the robot motion and the stylized reference that was used to train the policy. robot transitions smoothly between different policies. Here we showcase our set of episodic policies. These can be triggered with buttons on the remote control.
Me.
The robot can robustly walk over uneven ground. Robustness is obtained by using domain and terrain randomization and by applying random disturbances during training.
It knows how to walk up things. I mean, I don't think it'll really do this in a park environment, but it's good to have. Oh yeah, no, the ankles are carrying it, like, really good. No! I hate it when they do these tests.
In this ablation study, we compare the policy output of our method, which is trained with the full kinematics reference in the reward, to versions where we ask to track the body velocity and foot contact state, and where we track the body velocity only. It can be seen that only with the full body reference are we able to capture the nuances of the reference motion, such as head and body tilt.
Oh, I want to know how this works too. This is good.
The robot performance is composited from several layered animations. A background animation conveys a basic level of activity. The operator can trigger predefined sequences which are then blended with a background. These sequences can then be further modulated by adding joystick animations which are layered on top, for example to add head turn. During standing, the operator primarily controls the robot posture with one joystick and the robot gaze with a second joystick. The functional separation allows the puppeteer to more easily direct the robot's line of sight while simultaneously modifying the body posture to convey emotion.
Imagine using these for, like,
with the presented remote control interface, complex performance
live action films. This would be crazy.
As shown here, the operator is able to combine procedural walking, predefined animation sequences, and joystick animation to create a seamless show where transitions are barely perceptible.
Wait, shit. Was that scan animated? Wait a minute. Did he do that? The scan animation?
With the presented remote control interface,
or did he do that?
Performances can readily be created. As
like when he
here,
scans this little one, when he scans like the plant.
Procedural walking, predefined animation sequences, and joystick animation.
Oh, that's a predefined animation.
Show
oh, that's good.
Transitions are barely perceptible.
We love Steam Decks. What I wouldn't give to try and puppeteer one of those things.
With some additional demonstration sequences.
Yay, demonstration.
Hi. Aw. Aren't you so cute? What do you see? It's your friends. Let's go say hi. It's okay. Let's go say hi. Come on, don't be shy.
That shove was definitely real.
They're your friends. Let's go. Don't be shy. Come on.
No, I'm very impressed by that shove. The shoves. Like, am I like being like weird? Like being weird because that was a really cool thing it did.
No, that's makes sense.
I wonder how audible like I remember seeing a live demo of a video of a live demo of these in the parks. I wonder how audible the motors are.
Yeah.
Like I also can't tell if they are intentionally audible, like they're being played over with speakers or nah. Because that seems like kind of a waste, you know?
Yeah.
Hold on, I think there was a video of them in demo, so hold on. Star Wars drones. I'm sure this will give me something. There they are. The boys. Oh, there's not even audio.
Today we're playtesting our new legged walking character platform at Disneyland Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, walking them through the land to help us better understand what types of interactions really resonate with our guests.
Imagineering has given us some incredible technology to play with, and we have created a lovely story around these fabulous droids in training.
We're doing a playtest, and so are our characters. The way they move, the way they emote feels like a small child, so it was just about thinking, how do we create a context that can support that?
Engineers and animators both are key to a project like this. Engineers are creating an electromechanical system that can physically walk and balance and move, while it's the animator's job to artistically craft and shape these movements into a personality. And taken together, this creates a relatable character instead of just a robot.
These robotic characters are technological.
But I like the robot.
We
I don't need their character. I just like their box with legs.
To achieve this, we bring them into a simulation environment and have them learn to imitate motions that an animator on our team has specified. And to get our robots to walk and emote, we reward them if they closely follow the motions that our animators specify, while also making sure that they always keep balance at all times. By having robots trained in simulation, we get them to perform incredibly fun motions in what amounts to years of learning in the real world in just a few hours on a single computer. And with this technology, we can make...
Okay, so I didn't realize that they basically had like an animator make animations for this, like as if it were a video game, and then put it in the simulation saying, hey, we want you to stick to this as close as you can while also maintaining balance and doing other things. Which is a good way to like make sure, like, you know, it's a good way to do less work with the animation, or like use it in an efficient way, you know?
Yeah.
That's neat.
Inexpensive 3D printed robotic characters come to life very, very quickly. This
Oh, they're
allows
3D
us to go
printed.
from
Cute.
early concept to finished droids in training in less than a year. We applied this character platform to these droids in training, but this platform is agnostic to the characters that we built. So you can build larger, smaller, and you know, the sky's the limit there.
Not only is the technology cool, but people aren't even noticing that because the artistry is so excellent.
The guest reaction has been tremendous.
Shock and surprise, oh my gosh, oh, it's so cute.
They have so much personality.
Everyone of every age seemed to connect with them on some level. Some wanted to play with them like a little puppy, and some were happy just to watch them being their cute little droid selves exploring the land.
People wanting to touch, people wanting to take pictures with. Truly remarkable.
This is
And
me,
that's
if anyone
what
is asking.
fills my heart.
Lol, guys. They do such interesting robotics work. It's so good. It's like, does he figure out the best way to simulate droids is to literally build droids? That is, in fact, true. They built droids. All right. I think that should be it for today. It's pretty late. Okie dokie. Let's get out of here. So thank you guys for tuning in. Very much appreciate it. Sorry for the technical issues, of course, but you know, computer's computer. But hey, tomorrow's stream is going to be good too. It's going to be Balatro. Not too much happening there, just funny numbers, and we clicky the buttons on the funny numbers. So all good. Thank you, of course, Brandon, for joining me.
No problem.
Yay. All right. So, yeah, hopefully see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you guys say before you go, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I swear, if CrowdStrike happens again in any capacity, I will actually just live my life as a hermit.
I mean, you could also just not work with anti-malware software.
It's not my fault that I work with.
Start your own IT consulting company so that you can tell people what to use.
Start my own IT consulting company. It includes me, a clipboard, and a hammer. If I see technology I don't like, I will use the hammer, and they pay me for it. Perfect.
Start your own antivirus and
it's just a gun.
People into buying it like fucking
no. Start my
Sean
own.
McAfee.
No, start my own personal antivirus company, and it is just me with a gun.